Chapter 699. Gu's Realm. The sword intent of the 3,000 slaying Dao swords condensed into an image, hanging in the celestial vault, pointing at the heavenly constitutional Dharma aspect of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Facing this sword intent, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign felt an immense threat, immediately gathering celestial Dao destiny to continually elevate his aura. The celestial vault began to collapse, space twisted, revealing patches of strange light spots. Leah looked up at the magnificent scene in the sky, his face filled with excitement. This sword intent, yes. It was the sword Dao taught to him by Guan, the Taoist technique he had cultivated the longest. Before this, Leah had hesitated, thinking he needed to seek more powerful divine skills as his achievements in sword Dao couldn't keep up with his cultivation level advancement. But now, witnessing the might of the 3,000 slaying Dao swords, the confusion in his heart was dispelled. The path of sword Dao could always be pursued. Guan held the Cyan Hong sword, the tip pointed downward as he looked up at the celestial vault, the sword shadows of the 3,000 slaying Dao swords directed at the direction within his gaze. He deliberately waited for a moment, allowing the mana of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign to reach its utmost limit. He heard the words of the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, but he didn't care. Now, he wanted to slay both the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. Even if they could rely on the Celestial Court's destiny to revive, today he must shatter the courage of these two immortal gods. Gu and his eyes grew cold, and the sword intent avatar, which had paused for a moment, suddenly erupted with a terrifying momentum capable of shattering everything. Boom! The silver light sword shadows moved like thunder, instantly scattering the sky full of fire dragons, revealing the magnificent scene of the cosmos. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign stared wide-eyed, casting spells with both hands, unleashing his immense mana without reservation. Yet, in the face of Gu's sword intent, even with the blessing of celestial Dao destiny, he still felt his heart tremble with fear. How could Miao Zhen Daoyuo Immortal be so powerful? The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was himself a Miao Zhen Daoyuo Immortal. Inside and outside the Celestial Court he had encountered Miao Zhen Daoyuo Immortal realm perfection before, but no one had ever filled him with such fear as Guan. His fear arose quickly, and his demise came just as swiftly. Li Ya and Li Xianyu only sensed the world brighten. In an instant, the celestial vault shattered suddenly, the universe following swallowed by darkness. They felt as though they had fallen into an abyss, the endless darkness assaulting their sight, causing their hearts to feel intense dread. This was an instinctive emotion. Even though they had the protection of Gu's Dao intent, the impact on their vision still affected their minds. Fortunately, this fear was short-lived. When they regained their senses and looked closely, they could no longer see the figures of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. They were in the dark universe, void and desolate, with only the three of them remaining along with the Heavenly Ascension Stairs. The Heavenly Ascension Stairs still stood, the dazzling golden light becoming the sole source of light in this universe. Guan looked at the Heavenly Ascension Stairs, feeling in his heart that the creations of the Heavenly Dao were truly extraordinary, unable to disperse even the Heavenly Ascension Stairs. He turned to walk toward Li Ya and Li Xianyu, just as the master and disciple were about to speak, when suddenly their vision blurred. The next moment, Li Ya and Li Xianyu felt their feet touch the ground, instinctively opening their eyes to find themselves back by the riverside they had previously passed. Li Ya looked around, already unable to see the figure of Guan. Everything that had happened before felt like a dream. Li Xianyu also did not find the figure of Guan, standing there dazed, recalling everything that had happened before, his expression bewildered. For a long time, Li Ya took a deep breath, looked up to the horizon and murmured to himself, "Miao Zhen Daoyuo Immortal, is that your realm? Unheard of, and I wonder how many realms away it is from the profound Yuan Free Immortal." Knowing Guan's realm, Li Ya began to feel excited. At least he now had a target to pursue. Li Xianyu couldn't help but ask, "Master, was that person earlier the Uncle Master you mentioned before?" "Yes, it was him." Li Ya's expression returned to calm, as enigmatic as ever. "He's amazing. Is he the most powerful existence under the heavens?" not just under the heavens. If you look beyond heaven, you won't find many who are his match. So powerful, how can he be your junior brother? Could it be you're hiding your cultivation? Li Xianyu asked expectantly, his eyes shining brightly. Li did not answer, merely gazing profoundly toward the horizon, stirring Li Xianyu's imagination and making it difficult for his emotions to calm down for a long time. On the other side, Guan did not return to the Taoist field of the beginningless, but stood on the cliff of a high mountain. In front of him, a sea of clouds churned, with peaks emerging from the clouds in the distance. It was as if he stood above the Zhangtian, with beautiful scenery. He was reflecting on the previous great battle. This battle had caused anxiety to arise in his heart. The celestial court's destiny was truly unsolvable, allowing immortal gods to resurrect endlessly. He must devise a method to dissolve the celestial court's destiny. The celestial court's destiny was essentially the celestial Tao destiny, only transformed through some creation, making the celestial court's destiny more complex. If he possessed a method to dissolve the celestial court's destiny, he could kill immortal gods at will. He thought it might be possible to start from the path of cause and effect and the path of chi fortune. Although he could not think of a solution for now, he could conduct lifespan projection and life evolution. He did not immediately set about doing this. Instead, he lifted his eyes to the celestial vault, his gaze hesitant. In the unseen, he sensed a sword intent calling to him from afar, that place being the river of Sword Tao. The sword intent used to slay the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign had alerted a powerful being hidden within the river of Sword Tao, who used sword intent to show goodwill and wished to meet him. Should he make a trip to the river of Sword Tao? Above the boundless sea of clouds, there was a massive vortex emitting golden light, resembling an entrance to an exotic world, magnificently vast. Beside the vortex, two figures appeared out of thin air above the clouds and mist, precisely the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. At this moment, the form of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was no longer as huge as it had been before. Though still more stalwart than the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, they now appeared roughly similar in size. The two immortal gods half kneeled on the mist, their backs rising and falling, gasping for breath. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign, with his head lowered and eyes wide open, kept gasping, his eyes full of shock. Though he could revive, the sword intent earlier actually injured his Tao fruit, leaving him with lingering fear. Sir, the novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even he was like this, not to mention the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch trembled all over, supporting himself on the ground with both hands. He felt Gu An's killing intent still locked onto him. After a while, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign stood up, turning his head to look at Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, who was still kneeling on the ground. He spoke, "Never go to the celestial spirit great world again." He had already returned to his usual state, solemn and indifferent. The Huang Feng Immortal Monarch did not lift his head, asking through gritted teeth, "What about the Tai Immortal Monarch and the 72 Immortals of Jin Dong? What do you mean, what about them? Could it be you and the Tai Immortal Monarch have become close friends? The celestial court is in turmoil now. Supporting the Son of Heaven we have chosen is the top priority. The Son of Heaven protected by the supporting Tao Sword Venerable is too weak, unable to threaten the Son of Heaven we chose. Don't delay the important matters." The tone of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was irrefutably firm, causing the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch to fall silent. Seeing him so dejected, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign said earnestly, "When the Son of Heaven exits seclusion, sweeping across the great Tao and all heavens, then we will ask him to destroy the celestial spirit great world. It will be no difficult task." The Huang Feng Immortal Monarch stood up, nodding with a complex expression. He no longer dared to go to the celestial spirit great world. He didn't want to face that sword intent again. Even if he could revive, each revival would deplete his cultivation, not to mention the feeling at the moment of death was real. Remove the heavenly ascension stairs and pretend it never happened. Do not spread it, understand? The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign stared at the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, asking in a deep voice. The Huang Feng Immortal Monarch took a deep breath and said, "I will bury this matter in my heart forever. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 700, Infinite Void Sword Ancestor in the Dark Void. A river that emitted a silver-blue radiance stretched across the universe, twisting slightly, resembling an endlessly long silver dragon advancing slowly. This was the river of Sword Tao, formed by the Sword Tao nurtured by the heavens, on whose surface silver lines continuously emerged, symbolizing the birth of new Sword Tao. Guwen appeared out of thin air on the river of Sword Tao. He had spied upon the river of Sword Tao many times, but this was his first time truly coming to it. As soon as he manifested, he stepped forward and walked toward the interior of the river of Sword Tao. The sword intent he displayed when confronting the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and Huang Feng Immortal Monarch had disturbed the strongest presence within the river of Sword Tao. Guwen sensed that the other party's cultivation level had reached the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, although their minor realm was not as high as his. This time, Guwen suppressed his cultivation level and came to meet this powerful presence with the Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortal Realm Perfection cultivation level. After entering the river of Sword Tao, Guwen was surrounded by sword intent. As he glanced around, he could peer through the sword intent into different worlds, seeing the 3,000 great worlds, countless little worlds, and mysterious planes adrift within the great Tao. The bizarre and colorful scenes along the way could not tempt Guwen to halt his steps. Flying within the river of Sword Tao, Guwen felt as if he were traversing through time and space. After a while, his feet landed on the grass, which was part of a small island floating in the depths of the river of Sword Tao. On the island was a grove, and on the grassland outside the grove stood numerous steles engraved with the names of various Sword Tao, numbering over 100. After just sweeping a glance at them, Guwen walked toward the grove. The grove was serene and not very large. He reached the garden inside the grove after less than 20 steps. In the garden grew many flowers and plants, and there was a small wooden building, not very exquisite, giving off an ancient feel. In front of the building was a stone table at which sat an old man in a gray robe brewing tea. The fragrance of tea filled the air, and Guwen could feel a certain sword intent within the tea aroma. "Please have a seat, fellow Taoist." The old man in a gray robe looked at Guwen and spoke with a smile. "Infinite Void Sword Ancestor, Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm Early Stage 0/0/0, no lifespan?" No wonder he could only stay in the river of Sword Tao. It seemed his physical body and divine soul had already merged with the river of Sword Tao, coexisting with it. Guwen silently contemplated as he followed and sat opposite the Infinite Void Sword Ancestor. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor scrutinized Guwen, while Guwen likewise sized him up. After a while, the Infinite Void Sword Ancestor took the initiative to speak. "You must be the master of the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. Earlier, I was wondering how this Sword Tao could grow so rapidly with such a great cause and effect propelling it in the future. It turns out it was you, fellow Taoist. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao indeed has good fortune, and it will surely assist you in reaching higher realms." He noticed that Guwen was at the Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortal Realm Perfection, not as high as his own, but he believed Guwen would reach the same realm as him in the future, or even surpass him. He himself had achieved today's Tao practice by sacrificing freedom, whereas Guwen had lost nothing. Guwen nodded, curious as he asked, "Why are you in this river of Sword Tao, fellow Taoist?" With the ability of a Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, plus the connection with the river of Sword Tao, seeing through the origins of the Sacred Heart Sword Tao did not seem difficult to Guwen. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor stroked his beard and smiled. "To be honest, I was once a disciple of the Immortal Cave Heaven. Back then, while I was still in the heaven-opening Daoyuo Immortal Realm, I offended a supreme immortal of the Celestial Court. To avoid implicating the Immortal Cave Heaven, I came to the river of Sword Tao to self-destruct. By a stroke of luck, I didn't die but was reborn. Sadly, I can no longer leave the river of Sword Tao and can only study the Sword Tao here, spying on the evolution of the great Tao in the worlds. Actually, the reason I asked you to come is not just because of your sword intent but also because your clash with the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign reminded me of my past. Dare I ask what grievances you have with the Celestial Court? Guwen did not hide anything and replied, I secluded myself in a great thousand world, wanting to stay away from trouble. By chance, I took on a disciple, little knowing he was the reincarnation of the Son of Heaven, attracting the heavenly court immortals. Even though I sent him to the misty immortal court, these immortals still won't let me go, and am at a loss. At the end he gave a bitter smile. The infinite void sword ancestor listened and shook his head, saying, the heavenly court immortals do indeed act overbearingly. Back then, I didn't intentionally offend that supreme immortal either, yet it still brought about disastrous consequences. Guwen knew of the existence of the immortal cave heaven. The name had appeared before when he used lifespan breakthrough, but he wasn't sure of the foundation of the immortal cave heaven. The infinite void sword ancestor began recounting his past. Those grievances were not surprising. He had merely stepped up to save a group of cultivators being harmed by a demon, but it turned out that the demon was backed by a supreme immortal. Since then, he had been beset by endless pursuits. As the two conversed, Guwen began gathering information about the Celestial Court, and the infinite void sword ancestor did not hold back. The celestial positions in the Celestial Court, from low to high, are classified as Celestial God, Star Monarch, Main Deity, Immortal Monarch, Supreme Immortal, Celestial Tao Venerable, and the Supreme Celestial Emperor. The celestial positions in the Celestial Court are not entirely determined by cultivation level. With sufficient merit, one could also be promoted, though the gap between each celestial position wasn't excessively wide. Some supreme immortals are Miaojin Daluo immortals, while others have surpassed the Miaojin Daluo immortal realm. Additionally, the duties for each celestial position vary, as do the celestial Tao destinies they receive. Some immortals exist for combat and are extraordinarily powerful, while others who are less skilled in combat hold high ranks but may have cultivation levels lower than their subordinates. Besides these celestial positions in the Celestial Court, there are also some formidable presences that only partake in destiny, not holding specific celestial offices, and would only appear when the Celestial Court was in turmoil. Through the infinite void sword ancestor, although Guwen could not determine the exact realm of the immortals by their celestial positions, he could at least confirm one point. Within the Celestial Court, the most powerful was the Celestial Emperor. In Gu An's previous life in Huaxia, there were also many legends, including a celestial court, but within that celestial court, the Celestial Emperor was not the strongest. This was indeed a difference. Yet, they were both called celestial courts. Perhaps the mythology from Huaxia was related to the celestial court he was confronting. Could it be that the Celestial Emperor in myths was not the strongest due to the internal struggles of the Celestial Court? Guwen silently speculated. The infinite void sword ancestor continued, I observed that the one who first provoked you was an immortal monarch. Therefore, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign should indeed be the end of this cause and effect. As it involves the Son of Heaven, they certainly dare not call upon Tsungin. Although you could stand against the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign, it is best for you to think of more strategies. If you do not reject the Celestial Court, joining it is actually a good plan, or letting your disciple enter the Celestial Court to share the burden for you. Guwen developed a favorable impression of the infinite void sword ancestor. His suggestion was also one Guwen had considered. Despite having a vendetta with the Celestial Court, he was still being advised in this manner. The infinite void sword ancestor was indeed sincere with him. I will consider it, though I am quite curious about the fight for the Son of Heaven. Could you tell me about it, fellow Taoist? Guwen agreed and then inquired further. See Teach Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 701. Legend of the Celestial Court. The Great Tao was born from chaos. Since its birth, the cosmic planes have continuously multiplied and expanded. When the Celestial Court was born, no one knows. The Celestial Emperor is one of the oldest living beings. During his reign, the 3,000 great worlds have been destroyed and rebuilt. In other words, the existence of the 3,000 great worlds does not last as long as the Celestial Emperor's life. The infinite void sword ancestor looked at the teapot on the table, speaking with a leisurely tone, while Guin listened intently. Over the long years, the Celestial Emperor has had many children. The sons of heaven are innumerable, and perhaps there are more hidden among the human world. The talents of the sons of heaven are very high. As their cultivation level increases, their ambitions naturally grow. The struggle among the sons of heaven in the celestial court has become commonplace. I heard of such struggles even when I was in the immortal cave heaven. The top 10 sons of heaven have all grown up, even surpassing the celestial Tao Venerable. They have stayed in the position of son of heaven for too long, and their ambition has led them to covet the position of the celestial emperor. But as long as the celestial emperor remains, it is difficult for the celestial court to fall into chaos. The celestial emperor's favor towards a son of heaven influences the camp of the immortal gods. Some sons of heaven capture the celestial emperor's favor just by meeting him once, while others are cast into reincarnation for offending him, implicating the immortal gods who were close to them. Of course, there is another situation where after being abandoned by the celestial emperor, he still keeps them in mind. This happened a long time ago, so some immortal gods try to recruit those sons of heaven reincarnated in the human world to gain maximum benefits. The celestial emperor's heart is unfathomable by immortals or gods. The celestial emperor holds the greatest celestial power and can dismiss the destiny of immortal gods. He has even executed many sons of heaven. For ambitious immortal gods, the struggle in the celestial court is unpredictable in fortune and calamity. Your disciple probably once received the celestial emperor's favor, which is why some immortal gods tried to recruit, leading to dissatisfaction among other sons of heaven. The words of the infinite void sword ancestor left Guin deeply moved. The struggle between the celestial emperor and the sons of heaven was strikingly similar to the human world's royal family battles, only more cruel and complex. Some celestial gods, upon just being promoted to star monarch, are recruited and forced to take sides. Until their demise, they don't even realize they died due to the sons of heaven struggle. Although the celestial court is the place of highest authority on the great Tao, how different are the immortal gods at the bottom of the celestial court from mortals? Merely stronger, but their life and death are equally beyond their control. Since you are aware of the sons of heaven struggle, whether you enter the celestial court personally in the future or let a disciple join, you can take precautions and not be so passive. The infinite void sword ancestor said this as he picked up the teapot on the table and began pouring tea for Guin. Guin noted that the small furnace on the table was burning with a special Taoist fire, no less potent than the flames of the golden crow divine sovereign. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for telling me so much. I wonder why you have called me here, and what I can do for you. Guin shifted his gaze to the infinite void sword ancestor and curiously inquired. The information the infinite void sword ancestor provided was very valuable to him. He didn't mind reciprocating within his abilities. Upon hearing this, the infinite void sword ancestor chuckled softly. I dwell in the river of sword Tao, eternal and undying. The battles within the great Tao are unrelated to me. What desires would I have? Existences like mine can be found within other rivers of the great Tao too, so I am not lonely. After pouring tea for Guin, he poured a cup for himself. The aroma of the tea filled the air, with smoke like some spirit beast dancing over the cup. So, fellow Taoist has no regrets concerning the immortal cave heaven? Guin inquired while raising the teacup and taking a gentle sip. This tea contained profound truths of the sword Tao, aiding in cultivation. The infinite void sword ancestor laughed. Once within the great Tao, naturally cutting off past karmic ties, I have no relation with the immortal cave heaven anymore. This time, I sought you merely to discuss the sword Tao. I am very interested in the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. I have comprehended it before, yet it is continually strengthening, and I can never fully understand it. Would fellow Taoist be willing to discuss the Tao with me? Of course, though it cannot be for too long. Guan pretended to hesitate, not wanting to delay picking medicinal herbs. The infinite void sword ancestor laughed heartily and proceeded to drink tea and discuss the Tao with Guan. This discussion lasted a month. Guan seized an opportunity to interrupt, then took his leave, promising to return again in the future. Only then did the infinite void sword ancestor not feel regretful. Upon returning to the celestial spirit great world, Guan first went to various areas of the Medicine Valley to pick medicinal herbs. Once all the mature medicinal herbs were harvested, he finally exhaled a sigh of relief. He suddenly felt as if he was being controlled by the medicinal herbs. Actually, picking for one less year wouldn't have harmed him, but the habit formed over many years left him unable to stop. Upon realizing this, Guan couldn't help but mock himself with a smile. Still not strong enough, he thought. When his strength reaches a level where he no longer cares about the income from 10 or 100 years of lifespan, his mentality should change. He returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless and began recalling his discussion of the Tao with the infinite void sword ancestor. The sword Tao achievement of the infinite void sword ancestor was undoubtedly the strongest head ever encountered, and even a month of such discussion benefited him greatly. The turmoil in the human world continued to evolve. Even though his grand disciples frequently came to him to chat about these matters, he paid them no heed. His thoughts were concentrated on the celestial court. He had to think about how to place profound mysterious Shenren within the celestial court without being detected. At the same time, he also had to think about how to resolve the celestial court's destiny. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. Guan made no progress concerning destiny, hence he chose a minor approach, frequently performing lifespan phantoms. With each lifespan phantom, he left behind a legend in the 3,000 great worlds. Fortunately, the reincarnated lives concern themselves solely with their own cultivation, leaving no ties or karma, so their legends had limited impact. After a consecutive 10 lifespan phantoms, Guan's understanding of the path of Qi fortune reached another level. But it still wasn't enough. He still had a long way to go to fully comprehend the celestial Tao destiny. In the depths of the universe, the world gate still stood. The celestial spirit god was meditating in front of the gate when he suddenly sensed something. Opening his eyes, he calculated with his fingers, his face changed dramatically, and he stood up abruptly. He took a few steps forward and knelt halfway down in front of the world gate. Soon, a strong light burst from within the gate, illuminating the dim void, stretching the shadow of the celestial spirit god long. A figure slowly emerged from the world gate, an old man in white robes holding a horsetail whisk, with crane-white hair and youthful complexion. His figure appeared slightly thin, and clouds rose beneath his feet. Behind him presented a sea of stars Dharma aspect, his eyes calm, seemingly containing two great worlds. The celestial spirit god kept his head low, not daring to look at the white-robed elder. At this moment, the celestial spirit god was filled with shock. He didn't recognize this white-robed elder, but the elder's celestial Tao destiny was the heaviest he had ever seen in his life. The elder's immortal position must be exceedingly high, beyond his imagination. Why would such a being personally come to the celestial spirit great world? Search * the Nellfire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Friend or foe? Is he here to find him, or to find Guan? Or perhaps he has come for the Tai immortal monarch or the 72 immortals of Golden Cave. His mind was in turmoil, filled with extreme tension. He didn't even dare to send a transmission to Guan, fearing being detected by this powerful immortal god. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 702, Heavenly Court's Heavenly Order. Rise, I have come this time for personal matters. The elder in white robes spoke, And these words made the celestial spirit god even more nervous, as coming for personal matters likely meant vendetta. Do you know the cause and effect of your son? The elder in white robes stopped in front of the celestial spirit god and asked with an indifferent expression. The celestial spirit god raised his eyes to look at him, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Is he the reincarnation of the Son of Heaven?" Since the other party could ask this, it was certain they knew the situation. Hiding the facts he knew would only make things more troublesome. "That's right, he is the Son of Heaven, Xianqing, and also my disciple. I entrusted Emperor Ziwei to cover up his cause and effect. To have kept it hidden for so long, I am quite satisfied." The response from the elder in white robes made the celestial spirit god sigh with relief. So, he was Tianhao's former master. In that case, he shouldn't be an enemy. "I am titled Eternal Life Venerable, and I wish to meet supporting Dao Sword Venerable. Go and summon him for me, I will wait for him at the world gate." With an indisputable tone, the elder in white robes spoke, and upon hearing the term venerable, the celestial spirit god's pupils suddenly contracted. Inside, he was in turmoil. He never expected such a legendary figure to come in person. He dared not refute and immediately rose to go find Gu. An Eternal Life Venerable waved his sleeve, and the clouds around him dispersed, concealing his figure. 9 Spirit Continent, Qiankuan Sect. Gu-en and the celestial spirit god met in the city. The two walked on the street, strolling while discussing Eternal Life Venerable. A being in the celestial court entitled as Venerable is an ancient legend. Venerable is an existence above immortal monarch. "It's my first time seeing a Venerable. He came for Tianhao, claiming to see you," the celestial spirit god said with a tightly furrowed brow and a worried face. The arrival of Eternal Life Venerable to seek him was understandable, as after all, he had an inseparable cause with Tianhao. But why look for Guan? Tianhao had already left the celestial spirit great world, yet Eternal Life Venerable still sought Guan. Could it be to eliminate Guan? The celestial spirit god had deep interactions with Guan. He knew that if Guan were eradicated, he too would find it hard to escape death. Immortal gods are indestructible, but that's outside the celestial court. Inside, high-ranked immortal gods must die if their celestial court destiny is removed. Guan's expression remained unchanged as he looked around. He wasn't in a hurry to meet Eternal Life Venerable. As soon as Eternal Life Venerable arrived, he had already sensed it. This person's cultivation level was in the early stages of the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, far surpassing the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Both being supreme immortals, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was merely a Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortal, while Eternal Life Venerable reached the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm. No wonder he could be the master of the Son of Heaven. Guan wasn't afraid of the trouble because Eternal Life Venerable did not harbor hostility toward him, nor did he become his cause and effect nemesis. Ever since the life expectancy prediction upgraded, Guan would always receive hints of cause and effect hatred. Those destined to foster enmity with him numbered over 10 billion. This was still despite not venturing everywhere, making it hard to imagine how many enemies those cultivators, exploring the heavens, would encounter in a lifetime. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. You'll go meet him later. It's rare for you to come by, so why not take a look at the new novelties in the Qiankuan sect? Guan softly laughed after hearing the celestial spirit god's words. Seeing Guan so calm made the celestial spirit god reassured as well, admiring him secretly. Guan's composure was enough to make him pursue for a long time. Despite the admiration, he could never wholeheartedly immerse himself in amusement. It wasn't until dusk that Guan followed the celestial spirit god to the world gate. Night fell. Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. He entered his courtyard where only Shenzhen sat before the artifact refining cauldron. Seeing Guan return, Shenzhen turned her head, noticing the golden token in his hand, asked curiously, "What is that in your hand?" Guan walked over to his deck chair and sat down. Lying on it, he raised the golden token with his right hand, seemingly wanting to admire it under the moonlight. "This is the Heavenly Court's heavenly order, With this token, one may be ranked in the immortal class, Guin replied. Eternal Life Venerable sought him out specifically to offer such an opportunity, which appeared as a repayment for caring for Tian Hao, but was very clear to him that Eternal Life Venerable wished to tie him completely to Tian Hao, becoming part of the same faction. This Heavenly Court's heavenly order could allow one to directly enter the celestial court without undergoing trials, starting at a rank higher than a celestial god. The celestial spirit god was taken aback when he heard about the power of this order, nearly shattering his beliefs. Unable to part with Tian Hao, Guin naturally did not refuse this opportunity. He was now considering whom to give it to. Profound mysterious Shinran did not count, as he needed to prepare for both possibilities and not be led by Eternal Life Venerable. He decided to choose one disciple to ascend to immortality, based on who had the greatest desire. Rank in the immortal class. Shenzhen was taken aback, immediately stood up, squatted down beside Guin, and curiously examined the Heavenly Court's heavenly order. She inquired how the order came to be, and Guin did not hide it. Shenzhen had long known about the existence of the Celestial Court and Tian Hao's origins through Guin. But even so, she was still amazed when she heard about Gu An's engagement with the immortal gods. Even always at Gu An's side, she couldn't fully gauge how high Gu An's level was. Who do you think this order should be given to? Guin asked nonchalantly. Shenzhen thought for a moment and said, Do you remember your other disciple, Yang Jian? Yang Jian once wished to pursue An Hao. Now that An Hao has already reincarnated and is ascending to immortality, why not let Yang Jian ascend and continue to pursue An Hao? I always feel there's something hidden when you want a disciple in the dojo to ascend. Having been in the Taoist field of the beginningless for so many years, how could she not realize the dojo's uniqueness? Moreover, having delved into the path of cause and effect, she understood the fearsome nature of cause and effect and thus did not wish for someone from the Taoist field of the beginningless to ascend to immortality. Guin glanced at Shenzhen, a smile touched his lips. Guin, what is the celestial court really like? How many immortal gods are there, and where are they? Shenzhen curiously asked. Guin narrated all the information he had learned, which left Shenzhen full of emotion. It seems even the so-called immortal gods cannot escape the strife of interests, but what heights would true transcendence reach? Shenzhen sincerely sighed, and Guin did not answer her. He was also pondering this very question. Is the Supreme Celestial Emperor transcendent? If transcendent, why is there a struggle for the position of Celestial Emperor? And the countless vast great Taos still exist in places where even the Celestial Tao destiny cannot cover, indicating that the Celestial Tao is not the mightiest. That night, Guin and Shenzhen admired the moon together, discussing their imaginations of transcendence. Until the next morning, Guin left the Taoist field of the beginningless with Shenzhen and An Exin. On the way, An Exin learned of Gu An's intention for Yang Jian to ascend to immortality and thus learned of the interaction between Guin and Eternal Life Venerable, which piqued her curiosity about An Hao's identity as the Son of Heaven. Yang Jian currently remained in the Tai Tsang dynasty, but he was in long-term seclusion, away from the court. The Tai Tsang dynasty's foremost great general was Long Teng, whose presence allowed him to cultivate peacefully. Having reached the free immortal state, he was considering undergoing the reincarnation tribulation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 703. It was early autumn, and in the Holy King Palace, Yang Jian sat in the courtyard, sipping tea and enjoying the scenery. He wore a loose embroidered robe, his expression gentle, making it hard to believe he was once the great general who helped establish the Tai Tsang dynasty with great achievements. I didn't expect you to be so leisurely now. Do you no longer have higher pursuits in life? A female voice rang out in the garden, startling Yang Jian to turn his head, only to see An Exin entering through the garden's archway, followed by Shenzhen, and behind Shenzhen was someone else. When Yang Jian saw who that last person was, his expression changed drastically, and he immediately stood up and knelt on the ground. Disciple Yang Jian pays respects to master. Guin walked at the end, and upon hearing Yang Jian's words, he did not respond immediately but instead glanced around the garden. This garden's structure and scenery were exactly the same as a garden in the Third Medicine Valley from years ago, showing Yang Jian's deep longing for the past. An exile approached Yang Jian and said irritably, "You still remember you have a master. So many years have passed, why haven't you come to see your master? Don't say you couldn't find him. If you had the heart, 1,000,000 years wouldn't be enough to find him?" Yang Jian looked up, helplessly said, "Although I have retired, I cannot leave the Tai Tsang dynasty. The imperial dynasty has enemies all over the world. I truly feel powerless." An exon snorted and said no more, moving to the side. Yang Jian watched as Guan approached, his face showing excitement. In the past 1,000,000 years, he often imagined meeting Guan, but when the day finally came, his 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, unable to be expressed. "Stand up, let's sit and talk." Guan smiled, and his smile made Yang Jian feel relieved. Although they hadn't seen each other for many years, Guan had always been concerned about Yang Jian, never blaming him for not visiting. After all, the vastness of the world couldn't be ignored, and as long as Yang Jian held him in his heart, he was satisfied. After all, Yang Jian had grown up under his care and was once his most beloved disciple. Times had changed, and Yang Jian was no longer his most powerful disciple, but Guan did not assess his disciples based solely on strength. He nurtured disciples out of interest, never relying on them. Yang Jian quickly got up, then invited Xinzhen to sit down as well. After the four sat down, Guan began asking about Yang Jian's experiences over the years, and Yang Jian spoke at length while Xinzhen and an exile listened intently. After an hour, Guan then stated his purpose, discussing the pros and cons of becoming an immortal god and even disclosed An Hao's background. Upon hearing that An Hao was the reincarnation of the celestial emperor's son, Yang Jian was shocked but found it reasonable. Even as the world was reshaped and the cultivation speed of human prodigies grew increasingly exaggerated, An Hao's impact on him was the greatest. Such a genius being the celestial emperor's son made sense. "I am willing." Facing Guan's gaze, Yang Jian agreed directly. Guan smiled, "No rush, you can think about it more. There will be no regrets later." Yang Jian said seriously, "Becoming an immortal god means losing freedom, but such an opportunity is something mortal spirits can never touch. How can I refuse my master's kindness? Moreover, as you said, it involves senior brother An Hao. I am willing to enter the celestial court on your behalf, aiding senior brother An Hao while also being your eyes within the celestial court." Having held power in the holy court and a high position in the Tai Tsang dynasty, he understood what he needed to do after knowing the backstory of this cause and effect. Being his master's pawn, he had no worries and even looked forward to it. And he believed his master wouldn't let him down. After staying in the Tai Tsang dynasty for so many years, he had grown tired of the struggles within the human dynasty. Participating in the Heavenly Sons contest in the celestial court thrilled him. Such feelings hadn't surfaced for a long time. Guan's lips turned upward. With Yang Jian's words, he naturally had no reason to refuse. He directly took out the Heavenly Court's heavenly order and placed it on the table. "When you're ready, just infuse your divine sense into this token, and the Heavenly Tao will summon you to the Celestial Court. The timing is up to you." With that, Guan stood up and turned to leave. An Xian and Xinzhen followed closely behind. Tia the novel and Feng. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Yang Jian immediately got up, bowed to Guan's departing figure, and respectfully sent him off. Guan, along with an Xian and Xinzhen, vanished into thin air within the garden, and only then did Yang Jian lay his eyes on the Heavenly Court's heavenly order. Elsewhere, Guan and his companions arrived on a street in the imperial city, planning to enjoy themselves for 2 days before returning. "Guess how long it will take him to reach the celestial court?" Xinzhen asked with a smile. An Exan was just about to speak when suddenly, a deafening roar sounded from afar. A majestic celestial might enveloped the entire world, causing everyone on the street to turn their heads. From the east direction of the imperial city, a white pillar of light appeared, piercing through the skies spectacularly. Shenzhen was stunned. she sensed a tremendous celestial Tao destiny and immediately guessed it was Yang Jian. She didn't expect Yang Jian to act so swiftly. An Exen laughed. He's smart. The more he prepares, the more he hesitates. After all, he's not a lone wolf. Among the bustling street, only Guan hadn't turned his head. Before he came to find Yang Jian, he knew Yang Jian would agree and had even seen when Yang Jian would ascend to immortality. Now he pondered when to let the profound, mysterious Zhenren ascend and where that should happen. Yang Jian's ascension caused quite a stir, drawing great power from all over the Taizong dynasty, including Li Xiandao. During the ascension, Yang Jian confided his intent to ascend to immortality to Li Xiandao but didn't explain how he could do so, hoping Li Xiandao would take care of his descendants. Li Xiandao agreed, filled with shock and wonder. Could there truly be immortal gods? He always thought that so-called immortals were merely beings who achieved immortality through cultivation, like the former Holy Court claiming to be immortals, and now the Tao Court and the 100 sects of the human world claimed the same. He also called himself an immortal to his people. But today, witnessing the celestial Tao destiny taking Yang Jian away, he realized his understanding was overly simplistic. The ascension destiny connected to the celestial Tao light layer on the surface of the celestial spirit great world, causing global great powers to take notice. In the following days, more and more great powers arrived to witness Yang Jian's ascension. Yang Jian was not simply ascending. During the process, his physical body and soul underwent purification by the celestial Tao destiny, and his cultivation levels surged incessantly. Feeling his rapidly rising aura, onlooking great power cultivators marveled, some even attempting to force their way through, only to have their physical bodies turned to ash by the celestial Tao destiny, with their souls nearly obliterated, deterring others from acting rashly. Subsequently, even the profound Yuan-free immortal arrived, including the master of the Tao Court, Yuan Songzi. On the street, Guan calculated that the human world's fortunes had changed. Yang Jian's ascension marked an imminent leap in the celestial spirit great world's celestial Tao destiny because people worldwide began to believe in immortals, and the beliefs of cultivators could further bolster the celestial Tao destiny. The Taizong dynasty would thus become world-renowned, with Yang Jian becoming an immortal name passed down through all generations. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 704. Immortal Gods. Yang Jian's ascension had a profound influence, spreading wider with time, and years later, the matter reached the Qiankuan sect, triggering widespread discussion. In the years that followed, the search for immortal traces and the pursuit of opportunities to ascend to immortality became the main theme of the human world's immortal cultivation realm. Even mortals began chasing such traces. Yang Jian never ventured beyond heaven, yet was able to ascend to immortality in the human world, indicating that the human world harbors immortal fate. Once this news broke, the vanished celestial Tao followers reappeared like bamboo shoots after a rain, filling the human world with legends of ascension, making this phenomenon increasingly mystical. Time passed quickly. 10,000 years later, the human world fully entered a mythical era, with all beings driven mad in the pursuit of immortal fate, leading more cultivators to pretend to have divine powers. In this process, some cultivators discovered the power of faith, causing the number of immortal gods in the human world to grow. 100,000 years after Yang Jian's ascension, the number of free immortals in the human world reached new heights, and factions, races, cities, and little worlds in the void outside heaven also became more numerous, with the celestial spirit great world moving towards its peak. Taizong continent, North Sea mountain ridge, mountain god temple. In the courtyard, profound mysterious Zhenren knelt on the ground, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. And Guan sat on the steps in front of him, scrutinizing him, a look of satisfaction in his eyes. If you intend to ascend in the future, don't use the name Zhenren anymore, revert to your original name, henceforth called Li Xuanmiao. Guan spoke, to which profound mysterious Zhenren had no objection, as he had long left Mount Sanqing and the title of Zhenren was no longer important. Senior, Do I really have the qualifications to pass the Celestial Dao examination? Li Xuanmiao looked up at Guwen, hesitantly asking. Guwen had already told him the way to ascend to immortality. He needed to qualify for the immortal class by winning against immortal gods. Over hundreds of thousands of years, Guwen taught him many divine skills, yet he had never won a victory. Do not underestimate yourself. Your opponent in the illusion realm was me. Looking across the world, there is no free immortal who could be your match. Guwen softly chuckled, knowing fully well the strength of Li Xuanmiao. Over the years, Guwen had cultivated Li Xuanmiao more than an Xian, although this was partly because an Xian was already on the right track. An Xian would walk the path of the reincarnation Dao Emperor without needing to undergo the reincarnation tribulation. Li Xuanmiao similarly had not undergone the reincarnation tribulation, as Guwen was suppressing his cultivation level. The difficulty of challenges in the Celestial Dao examination depended on the trialist's cultivation realm. Guwen had previously simulated a lifespan to know the process of this examination. This Celestial Dao examination was a chance for immortality Lu Xian had once stumbled upon and had already been handed over to Guwen. The Celestial Dao Immortal Stone, containing opportunities for ascension, which Guwen had understood from the Eternal Life Venerable, was concealed in almost every great world. It represented the Celestial Court's mercy to all beings of the human world. Those with extraordinary talent could ascend by passing the Celestial Dao examination within it, the immortal position determined by their own strength. The Celestial Dao Immortal Stone could not capture fate. Even the Eternal Life Venerable could not deduce its specific location. Whether or not one encounters it depends on fate. Essia the Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Of course, passing this examination is exceedingly hard. Lu Xian had already failed before. It is worth mentioning, if one passes the examination and then refuses to ascend, celestial punishment would ensue, as no one could refuse the Celestial Court. Truly? Li Xuanmiao asked in surprise, trusting in Guwen's judgment because Guwen was the most powerful being under heaven. Perhaps even beyond heaven, he was the strongest. Naturally, from now on, call me master. Guwen's words brought delight to Li Xuanmiao, who promptly knelt down to take him as his master. Thereafter, Guwen took out a small cauldron and said, "This is the mountain and river unparalleled cauldron and is a Dao treasure of Wuxi. I have temporarily sealed Wuxi's destiny, yet even so, it is still a formidable magical treasure. It will protect you when you are in mortal danger, just like every Wuxiji disciple has a Dao treasure." Yang Jian did not have one yet, but it was already prepared for when he returned from the Celestial Court to visit. Li Xuanmiao received the mountain and river unparalleled cauldron with joy. The more he looked at it, the more he loved it. After he played with it for a while, Guwen began guiding him to refine the cauldron. "It's time for you to ascend to immortality," Guwen thought to himself while looking at Li Xuanmiao. All of Li Xuanmiao's divine skills were personally imparted by him, leaving no shortcomings. Coupled with his demon god body, Guwen was eager to see how Li Xuanmiao would perform once he became a god. Meanwhile, the path of the Great Dao. The blood prison Great Saint sat cross-legged atop a mountain peak, surrounded by the aura of the Great Dao, casting an oppressive atmosphere across this void. In the distance, on the barren land, Fang Xian stood shoulder to shoulder with 5 cultivators, gazing at him. "I wonder if the second brother will succeed?" "He surely will. His talent in the primordial Dao Emperor far surpasses ours. The second primordial Dao Emperor among us is about to be born. It's truly exciting. We must also strive. Once all 7 of us become primordial Dao Emperors, we can challenge the Taoist Emperor to vindicate the primordial Dao Emperor." In actuality, there's no need for us to act. Xuanji Emperor alone can vindicate. With his talent, he is bound to become a primordial Dao Emperor. Fang Xian did not engage in the conversation with the other 5. He looked at the blood prison Great Saint, his gaze steady, confident in the latter's success. Fang Xian had already attained the primordial Dao Emperor, fully aware of its power, and no longer deemed it necessary to compete with the Taoist Emperor. In his view, No great Tao destiny could compare to the primordial Tao Emperor. The Taoist Emperor relied on combat and deprivation, the celestial Tao destiny on faith, while the primordial Tao Emperor only required enlightenment. The 3,000 great Taoists never mentioned one Tao devouring another, thus he felt the primordial Tao Emperor was the truly correct path. Nevertheless, he had no reason to dampen the enthusiasm of his sworn brothers. More than fretting over whether the blood prison great saint would succeed, he feared that success would lead to separation. Since the destruction of the battle court, Fang Xian drifted alone, with the blood prison great saint as his only confidant and support, and he did not wish for him to leave. However, if return was his chosen path, he would not obstruct it. At this moment, an overwhelming pressure descended, compelling Fang Xian and the 5 others to turn their heads, seeing a massive black hole appearing in the depths of the void, seemingly about to devour from the ends of the earth. From within the black hole, numerous dreadful auras emerged, clearly indicating an incoming force. Prepare for battle. There are always those seeking shortcuts. Fang Xian spoke emotionlessly. As the heaven-encompassing free immortal, bolstered by the primordial Tao Emperor, he would not fear anything short of a golden immortal. Upon hearing this, the other 5 each brought out their magical treasures, not surprised by the arrival of adversaries. This group had plagued them for tens of thousands of years, coveting Fang Xian's body as a primordial Tao Emperor to understand its mysteries. Fang Xian was the first to fly forth, his formidable aura erupting suddenly, matching the combined aura of the mysterious force within the black hole. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 705. Dojo Expansion. It has been 100 years since Li Xuanmiao started calling Gu and his master. The human world has not changed much, with life and death occurring daily, while the 100 great sects and the Tao court in the immortal cultivation realm are still in friction, leaving the situation unclear. On this day, after the new year, Gu and brought Li Xuanmiao to the dust world, a great thousand world more prosperous than the celestial spirit great world, even hiding an innate golden immortal. He planned for Li Xuanmiao to ascend to immortality in dust world. To this end, he even altered Li Xuanmiao's cause and effect, making him a native creature of dust world. Not only did Li Xuanmiao's karma appear this way, but memories of him also emerged among the great cultivators of the world. Now, Li Xuanmiao is a renowned talent known across dust world. He practically changed the entire dust world's cause and effect, such as the power of a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal. Even the celestial gods of this world were unaware. At the ocean's edge, on the beach, Li Xuanmiao held the celestial Tao immortal stone, looking at Guan with a serious expression. Guan smiled and said, "Don't worry too much, you've already experienced the trials inside, only this time your opponents are immortal gods. To be cautious, you'll first hide your memories of me, and after you achieve immortality for 10,000 years, these memories will resurface." Li Xuanmiao took a deep breath and nodded slightly. Guan immediately waved his sleeve. A gust of wind sent Li Xuanmiao into a daze. When he regained consciousness, Guan was nowhere to be seen. He looked down at the celestial Tao immortal stone in his hand and immediately probed it with his divine sense. After the time of one stick of incense, the sand beneath his feet suddenly erupted with a skyward blast, shooting straight into the clouds, followed by a brilliant light forming a celestial Tao beam as spiritual energy in the world frantically surged toward him. He passed the heavenly Tao trial. Beyond the heavens, deep in the cosmos, at the world gate, the celestial god guarding the dust world opened his eyes, displaying a peculiar expression. There are people in this realm who can pass the evaluation of the celestial Tao immortal stone? Impressive. The celestial god muttered to himself, his face showing a look of anticipation. Having an immortal god born in this world also benefits him, as he will receive rewards from the celestial court, and this newly ascended immortal's position will surely be higher than his, possibly allowing them to become acquainted. Many ascended gods and trial gods hold nostalgia, and some great thousand worlds are rich in heritage because of their numerous immortal gods. far surpassing other great thousand worlds. He stood up, intending to go and meet the new immortal god, where he could offer some advice as a form of greeting, establishing familiarity. Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, feeling elated that Li Xuanmiao was about to join the immortal class. It was uncertain what level of celestial Tao immortal position Li Xuanmiao could attain. According to the Eternal Life Venerable, whether by using the Heavenly Tao command or through the Celestial Tao Immortal Stone, the immortal position will be above the celestial gods. The Eternal Life Venerable also listed other methods of achieving immortality, so he would not guess that Guan had a Celestial Tao Immortal Stone in his possession. There are dozens of methods to become immortal, and any path involving the heavenly ascension stairs is a superior one. Most celestial gods are appointed through recommendations from immortal gods or selected from participating in heavenly soldier trials. Even the most gifted among celestial spirit gods, unable to advance through the Celestial Tao Immortal Stone, required recommendations from immortal gods. Talent is the least noticeable in the celestial court because there are so many gifted geniuses aspiring to become immortals. Even the greatest talent in a single great thousand world is considered insignificant within the great Tao. Guan strolled leisurely along the small river in the dojo. Ahead, someone was cultivating by the river, none other than Emperor Tianhong. After many years, Emperor Tianhong had awakened some memories of immortal gods, making him cherish his time cultivating in the Taoist field of the beginningless even more, as he knew he would eventually return to the celestial court. Hearing footsteps, Emperor Tianhong opened his eyes and turned his head, and upon seeing it was Guan, he quickly got up and bowed to Guan. "Continue your cultivation, I'm just taking a stroll." Guan said with a smile. Li Xuanmiao's ascension made him view Emperor Tianhong more favorably. Without necessity, he indeed need not oppose the celestial court, as he preferred peaceful, enlightenment-seeking days over battles and killings. As he passed by Emperor Tianhong, the latter breathed a sigh of relief and continued meditating and cultivating. Despite having spent many years together, he still felt great pressure facing Guan. Guan, hearing his inner thoughts, did not mind much either. As the number of people in the Taoist field of the beginningless grew, he could not befriend every disciple, as that would be too exhausting. Among the third-generation disciples, only Shangguan Xian'er seemed interesting to him, and he was lazy to bother even with Zizai, whom he had taken to see the world. After walking 100 miles further, Guan saw Lu Zidao, celestial demon child's disciple, sparring with Jiang Lan, and Xin's second disciple, in swordsmanship. The two used neither mana nor divine skills, only exchanging sword techniques, their movements sharp and swift. Upon noticing Guan approaching, their faces changed, intending to stop, but Guan's voice reached them. "Don't stop, I'm just passing through." Essia the Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing this, Lu Zidao and Jiang Lan's eyes sharpened, and their movement techniques became even faster. The third-generation disciples all wanted to win Guan's favor, and they took this rare opportunity to showcase their talent in front of him more earnestly. Guan bypassed them and entered the mountains and forests. If the dojo's disciples reach 100 in the future, it might need expanding. Guan silently contemplated as high-realm disciples' combat would inevitably have a broad impact, even if restrained. Expanding the dojo required a lifespan. He planned to incorporate the entire 9-spirit continent into the Taoist field of the beginningless. His considerations stemmed from seeing the future, where the Qiankuan Church would face calamity, causing chaos within the sect and significant casualties among the continent's beings. This was caused by internal strife, and Guan still would not interfere, perfectly aligned with his wish for Qiankuan Church to stand independently. He had sheltered the Qiankuan Church for so long, and continuing to protect it would violate his principles, as relying on the Taoist field of the beginningless to become the world ruler would be against his creed. The Qiankuan Church could be the world's premier sect but could not solely rely on the Taoist field of the beginningless. The world's leading sect must not only be strong but also command public respect. An hour later, Guan leisurely returned to his courtyard. As he passed the artifact refining cauldron, Shenzhen suddenly asked, Can you discern Yang Jian's current immortal position now? Since Yang Jian ascended to immortality, she had been curious about this and asked many times. Without stopping his steps, Guwen replied, "Still can't, but you'll know when he returns." He had to go back inside to read. Recently, Shangguan Xiener had another magnificent work, and he needed to appreciate it carefully. Shenzhen pursed her lips, secretly resolving not to let Shangguan Xiener surpass her. She too should start writing again. As the sun set and the moon rose, a night passed. The next morning, Guwen walked out of the house, holding a book in his hand, with a smile on his face. "Where are you going again?" Shenzhen asked curiously. Guwen glanced at her and said, "Going to Qin Kuan's sect." "I'll go too." Shenzhen immediately stood up, guessing what Guwen was about to do and wanting to join in on the excitement. Guwen did not refuse her, and headed straight to the courtyard gate. Just as he reached the gate, an Exian appeared out of nowhere, frowned, and said, "Master, I received news that Yuan Luo has turned into a demon. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 706. Inheritance of Heaven and Earth. Yuan Luo, once the top genius of the Qinkuan sect, is now a free immortal, famous throughout the world. His descent into a demon is a great blow to the Qinkuan sect, which prides itself on being an orthodox Taoist sect. An Exian received the news that Yuan Luo, during his training outside, encountered many sections. For some reason, he suddenly turned into a demon, slaughtering tens of thousands of cultivators, including hundreds of fellow disciples. The news spread back to the Qinkuan sect, and they couldn't contain it. Other sects are also using this incident to damage the reputation of the Qinkuan sect. An Exian felt that this was an unprecedented crisis for the Qinkuan sect, and if not handled properly, it could affect its future development. Let nature take its course. This calamity can just test the resolve of the Qinkuan sect, Guwen replied casually. Yuan Luo hadn't truly become a demon. He merely acted out in a fit of rage. In fact, he had always had a streak of fierceness since childhood, and the higher-ups of the Qinkuan sect were aware of it. As the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo, Yuan Luo's power would grow with his resentment and anger. During his conflicts with the Dao court, he became increasingly aware of this and began consciously allowing himself to enter extreme emotions. Currently, Yuan Luo isn't powerful enough, at least not capable of endangering the world. The Chaos Grudge Luo is sealed, so he can only borrow a little power. In fact, aside from Yuan Luo, there are other hidden dangers within the Qinkuan sect. The rules of the righteous Dao sometimes incite hatred and can become tools for those with intentions. Upon hearing Gu An's words, an Exian realized something. She stepped aside to make way for Gu, and watching the departing backs of Guwen and Shenzhen, an Exian sighed slightly. She understood that her master had grown tired of caring for the Qinkuan sect. Although she got along well with the Qinkuan sect, she wouldn't go against or doubt her master's decision. An Exian stopped thinking about it and turned to leave. Recently, she had been immersed in the reflections of reincarnation, gaining deeper insights into the primordial Dao Emperor. She increasingly felt that the primordial Dao Emperor was unfathomable, and it was a path with limitless potential. She was resolute in her determination to become a primordial Dao Emperor. The disciples of Wushi all walk the path of the primordial Dao Emperor, and she aims to become the first primordial Dao Emperor within the beginningless, aside from Guwen. The sun was bright, and amidst the surrounding mountains, Xiaolan, in a white dress, walked on the stone path beside a stream, curiously admiring the scenery along the way. Senior Sister Xiaolan. A voice came from the side, and a young man in blue descended from the sky, landing beside her with a smile on his face. The blue-clothed man's figure was tall, with an elegant demeanor, and his smile felt as gentle as a spring breeze. Xiaolan nodded towards him and asked, "Junior Brother Cheng, you're here too?" "Master said that the Ting Master wanted to see me, so I came. I didn't expect I wasn't the only one. As it seems, there might be other disciples as well." Junior Brother Cheng smiled. Xiao Lan couldn't help but become interested. It seemed the Ting master had something major to arrange. The two continued forward, chatting along the way. On their journey, they encountered other disciples, heightening their curiosity about the purpose of this trip. Upon arriving at a courtyard, they saw a dozen or so disciples waiting there, and Xiao Lan also spotted Zhao Rushan. Even he's here, it must be something significant. Xiao Lan thought silently. Zhao Rushan now wielded immense power, second only to Ting Master Yuan Songzi within the Dao court. Everyone regarded Zhao Rushan as the next Ting Master. Not only Xiao Lan, but the other disciples were also surprised to see Zhao Rushan. Zhao Rushan sat beside Yuan Songzi in a black robe, exuding a domineering aura. His gaze was penetrating, and except for a few, most didn't dare meet his eyes. Yuan Songzi looked at the group and said with a smile, "Everyone who's supposed to be here is here. I have something to announce today." The disciples stood in a line, not daring to sit like Zhao Rushan. Xiao Lan wasn't necessarily afraid, but she didn't want to be too close to Yuan Songzi or Zhao Rushan. She spent years in seclusion, avoiding the factional struggles within the court as much as possible. Although Yuan Songzi had taken her to the path of the Great Tao, her master wasn't in the same faction as Zhao Rushan. "Ting Master, what has happened? Could it be that the 100 sects in the human world are planning to besiege us?" Junior brother Chung couldn't help but ask first. His words made the other disciples tense up. Over the years, there have been more sects causing trouble for the Dao court. Various kinds of conflicts have been reported internally. The Dao court flaunts itself as the righteous Dao and the world ruler, but their handling of certain matters has left the disciples dismayed. Everyone could feel the pressure from other sects and perceive the Dao court's growing weakness. Normally, they are dissatisfied with the upper echelons, but when it comes to going to war with the 100 sects, they feel apprehensive. Today's situation is unlike the past. The Dao court indeed lacks the power to suppress the entire human world. That's not it, but the situation you foresee will happen sooner or later. Yuan Songzi smiled softly. His words made the disciples' faces change dramatically, but seeing his smile, they felt he wasn't worried. Perhaps the Ting Master already had a plan. Thinking this way, the disciples felt at ease. "You all are the brightest disciples of the Dao court, and your reputation is extremely high. I plan to let you inherit the various legacies of the Dao court. Once the Dao court is dissolved in the future, you can establish your own sections. Are you confident?" When Yuan Songzi said this, his smile didn't fade, as if he was discussing something trivial. Upon hearing this, the courtyard burst into an uproar. The disciples were all shocked and began to object. "Ting Master, what do you mean? Why dissolve the Dao court? We are not afraid to fight, even if it means a life and death struggle with the 100 sects. We are not afraid." "That's right, with all the storms we've seen since the Dao court's establishment, what's there to fear?" "Exactly, Ting Master, why don't we just start a war with the 100 sects and catch them off guard?" While the disciples were passionately excited, Xiao Lan kept silent, her eyes fixed on Yuan Songzi. She didn't think Yuan Songzi was a coward. Back when the undefeated Emperor clan wanted to kill them, Yuan Songzi showed no fear and was at the forefront. The combined 100 sects of the human world are no match for the undefeated Emperor clan. Yuan Songzi raised his hand, signaling everyone to calm down. The group could only suppress their emotions. The Dao court has presided over the world for 1,000,000 years. It has been long enough. In fact, you might not know that the Dao court itself wasn't founded by me alone. It was formed by the unification of the greatest sects from the great heaven and earth before the world's reformation, and I merely facilitated it. After the Dao court dissolves, you will establish your sects, creating a new order for the era. This itself is a form of legacy. Yuan Songzi spoke seriously, paused, and continued, "Of course, the Dao court will not easily be dissolved. At the very least, it should make other sects realize how precious this throne is and serve as a warning for future generations, thus better benefiting all living beings under heaven." CTH Novelfire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 707. Vast Law Great Light God Honor. Inside the grotto heaven, Guan and Xiao Lan sat on the mountain cliff, chatting while enjoying the scenery. The Ting Master's vision is indeed grand, having already thought of dissolving the Dao court, but surely the other higher-ups will not agree. Xiao Lan spoke of Yuan Songzi's decision, her face full of sentiment. She did not feel regret about the dissolution of the Dao court. She thought Yuan Songzi had made a good point, as the troubles of the Dao court could no longer be resolved by just 1 or 2 wars. Xiao Lan looked at Guan, curiously asking, "Brother Gu, with your cultivation level seeing this world, who do you think will be the sect to unify the realm next?" Guan shook the wine gourd, smiling, "How could I know? Even if I did, that would be a heavenly secret." Xiao Lan pouted. Through these years, the two often sparred, and no matter how strong she became, she was never a match for Guan. She always felt Guan was stronger than Yuan Songzi. Guan's existence made her find the disputes between major sects quite laughable. The truly great powers were hidden in the human world, watching the tides rise and fall. If someone like Guan were willing to take action, they would surely be able to overturn the world's structure. Thinking of this, Xiao Lan looked at Guan with eyes full of admiration. Guan was not interested in Yuan Songzi's decision, for it had appeared in his vision long ago. He could even foresee the situation in the human world after the Dao court dissolved. "Have you gained any deeper insights into the primordial Dao Emperor recently?" Guan changed the subject and asked. An XN was already very close to the primordial Dao Emperor. She would become the first primordial Dao Emperor beyond the path of the great Dao, and once successful, the primordial crystal would disperse to the 3,000 great worlds, entering a new stage of the primordial Emperor road. Xiao Lan's aptitude was not bad, and combined with the accumulation of the innate reincarnation skill, she had high comprehension of the path of reincarnation. Xiao Lan nodded and said, "Yes, but it feels like I still need to continue projecting to reach the primordial Dao Emperor." Recalling the reincarnation projection, she felt astonished. The cultivation method of the primordial Dao Emperor was indeed too profound. Even though she had not personally experienced reincarnation, she had memories of reincarnation, and those memories were not false. She was now very curious about how strong the real primordial Dao Emperor was. She believed Guan was the primordial Dao Emperor. After all, he was the one who led her on this path, though she still couldn't figure out how strong Guan was, as the gap between their strengths was too vast. She began to discuss her cultivation dilemmas with Guan. Guan accompanied her for 3 days before leaving. After leaving the Dao court, he first went around collecting medicinal herbs. After profound mystery left, the mountain god temple was considered abandoned, and Guan had already moved those herbs to the Taoist field of the beginningless. To commemorate this place, he left a legacy in the mountain god temple. After picking mature medicinal herbs outside the dojo, Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, leisurely walking towards the peak where he resided. Everything was moving in a positive direction, and next he looked forward to his own progress. When he achieved a lifespan of 100 million years, he would go to break through. CTH Novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. What realm would be above Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal? He could first invest some of his lifespan to probe the name of a higher realm, but he did not do so, knowing that names meant nothing and preferred to keep its mystery, which made him more expectant. The sun set in the west, casting a long shadow of Guan. On a grand and magnificent hall, Long Mie, also known as the Celestial Destruction Divine Dragon, walked forward with powerful strides, wearing golden armor, valiant in appearance, as if dragon shadows circled around him. This hall was vast, with immortal mist covering the floor, and huge stone pillars stood upright, each coiled with different flood dragons, all living creatures, some asleep, some watching the celestial destruction god. He advanced all the way to the white jade stairs, which had 100 steps, towering 100 zhang high, and at the top sat a giant azure lotus seat, upon which sat a giant immortal. This giant immortal, though sitting, exceeded 1,000 zhang in height, wearing a large, dark robe, with white hair but an exceptionally youthful face, ruddy complexion, and a jade hairpin inserted above, with the tail end ablaze. This immortal was a supreme immortal of the celestial court, titled Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord. Celestial Destruction God greets the Divine Lord. The Celestial Destruction God bowed and raised hands in a salute, his tone respectful. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord opened his eyes, and the entire hall grew even brighter. He looked down at the Celestial Destruction God and slowly spoke. Your past, this Lord already knows. You have rendered significant contributions to the Celestial Court. This Lord will assist you in advancing to Star Monarch. Before that, you will cultivate in this Lord's dojo and strive to achieve Taiching Golden Immortal as soon as possible. Thank you, Divine Lord, replied the Celestial Destruction God, his tone not too surprised nor overly excited. Profound mystery. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord spoke, and as the words fell, a figure appeared out of thin air in the hall, less than 100 zhang away from the Celestial Destruction God. The Celestial Destruction God glanced over, his eyes squinting. He could feel the celestial Dao destiny of the other, whose immortal position tier was higher than his, but the other's cultivation level was only at the profound Yuan-free immortal realm. Could such a cultivation level achieve Star Monarch? The Celestial Destruction God did not underestimate the other. He knew that such achievements couldn't be through connections, and the other might have ascended through a superior path to immortality. The one who appeared was indeed Li Xuanmiao, who had passed the trial of the Celestial Dao Immortal Stone. Li Xuanmiao wore a gold-threaded white robe and a peacock silver crown, with a transcendent bearing, like an immortal from a painting. He was not as dominant as the Celestial Destruction God, but his own immortal god qualities were outstanding. Li Xuanmiao saluted Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord, saying, Master. He is this Lord's new disciple, coming from a great world within dust, passing the test of the Celestial Dao Immortal Stone, and being awarded by Tsungqian, ranking among the Star Monarchs. His cultivation is too low. Before the realm improves, this Lord will not let him take any immortal positions. Celestial Destruction God, henceforth you are responsible for guiding him. This will be your first task from this Lord. If you wish to descend to the lower realm, you may do so yourself, but each time you may not exceed 100 immortal years. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord's voice echoed. Upon hearing this, the Celestial Destruction God immediately accepted the order, without refusal or further questions. Shortly after, Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord closed his eyes. Li Xuanmiao raised his hand towards the Celestial Destruction God, signaling to leave the hall together. The Celestial Destruction God nodded, and the two turned and left together. After walking out of the Golden Hall, they arrived on a cloud, looking out to where numerous palaces emitted 10,000 rays of golden light, and a giant rainbow hung in the sky. Master has already informed me of your arrival and asked me to prepare a dojo for you in advance. Come with me, Li Xuanmiao said, looking at the Celestial Destruction God. Since ascending, he had met many immortal gods, and he had already accepted the disparity in status among immortal gods. As a Star Monarch, he could direct celestial gods, and even though the Celestial Destruction God's cultivation was higher than his, he need not be polite, nor did he need to bow. Thanks, Star Monarch. The Celestial Destruction God cupped his fist, showing no displeasure on his face. Li Xuanmiao began leading the way, and as he walked, he turned to ask, Celestial Destruction God, I heard you destroy worlds. Could you tell me about the duties of celestial gods? Being new here, I want to gain more understanding of the Celestial Court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 708. Below the realm facing Li Xuanmiao's inquiry, the Celestial Destruction God did not refuse and began to narrate about the celestial gods. Although celestial gods hold the lowest tiers of the Celestial Court's immortal positions, there are tens of thousands of types. The most numerous are the celestial gods guarding the worlds. including the 3,000 great worlds and many cosmic planes. Where there is guardianship, there is destruction. The celestial destruction god belongs to the destruction faction, wielding the power of punishment. Above celestial gods are the star monarchs, and above them are the main deity and the immortal monarch. The pinnacle of the celestial destruction god's faction is the god of destruction, a main deity position. After joining under the command of the majestic gods venerable Guangfa Taiguang, the celestial destruction god essentially left the god of destruction's faction, embarking on another path. Li Xuanmiao had long known that the majestic god's venerable Guangfa Taiguang was extraordinary, but he didn't expect him to hold such a high position. According to the celestial destruction god, 90% of celestial gods will never face the supreme immortal in their lifetime. The celestial destruction god was also filled with curiosity about Li Xuanmiao and, after introducing his understanding of the celestial court's immortal positions, he inquired about Li Xuanmiao's ascension experience. Li Xuanmiao had a favorable impression of him and did not hide anything. Hearing that Li Xuanmiao passed the test of the celestial Dao immortal stone in the Zizai immortal realm, the celestial destruction god was quite impressed. With this person's talent, he might very well achieve the rank of supreme immortal in the future. The two chatted more and more enjoyably, and their relationship was drawing closer. Conflicts between the 100 sects of the human world and the Dao court increased, and each of the 100 great sects was a regional overlord. They joined forces to oppress the Dao court, causing its prestige in the eyes of the world to diminish, leading even weaker sects to show disrespect towards the Dao court. Eventually, an unprecedented war broke out in the human world. In just 10 years, the 100 sects of the human world launched an attack on the Dao court, and in the subsequent years, more sects continued to join. The Dao court, like an ancient towering tree, was on the verge of collapse, and everyone wanted a piece of its flesh. The Qinkuan sect also got involved. In the end, they forgave Yuan Luo, merely imprisoning him for 10,000 years, before they too threw themselves into the war against the Dao court. The enmity between the Qinkuan sect and the Dao court was deep, mainly sparked by Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan. The two sides had been in constant friction, accumulating hatred over hundreds of thousands of years, waiting to explode. The Dao court, after all, was a colossal entity that dominated the heavens and the earth for millions of years. Its depths were unimaginable to the world, and even when facing attacks from all over the world, they could still exhibit resilience. Search * The Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 100,000 years later, the war in the human world still had not ended, and constantly new outstanding talents emerged between heaven and earth, having to venture to the ancient battlefields to prove themselves. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan was lecturing disciples, including even the third-generation disciples. In recent years, 3 new members were added: Mo Xuandi, the second disciple of Jiang Shishou, Li Qing, disciple of Emperor Tianhong, and Chang Jie, disciple of Tianbai. Among these 3, only one came from the Qinkuan sect. The other 2 were common people from the 9-spirit continent. Guan was sharing his insights on the primordial Dao Emperor, and even the third-generation disciples could listen and benefit greatly. He intended to make the beginningless a formidable force on the primordial Emperor road. The primordial Dao Emperor would surely surpass the Taoist Emperor one day. By then, many sects would join, but no one would think of the connection between the primordial Dao Emperor and the beginningless. After finishing his lecture, Guan invited the disciples to ask questions one by one, and the most active ones were the third-generation disciples, eagerly seeking knowledge. This time, Guan was very patient with them. Although he usually was not interested in his disciples, when it came to cultivation, he was fair. He carefully answered every question from each disciple and provided a suitable path for their cultivation. Ancestor, the primordial Dao Emperor seeks insight from nature, not the path of killing enemies. What is your view of this calamity in the human world? Mo Xuandi suddenly asked, his gaze fixed on Guan. He appeared to be in his early 20s, with skin not very fair, and his brows were marked with bitterness due to years of frowning. He came from the Qinkuan sect, with parents who died in the war against the Tao court, harboring a long-held seed of revenge. Upon hearing his question, Jiang Shi sighed but did not stop him, hoping Guan could enlighten Mo Xuandi. Guan looked at Mo Xuandi and said, "Since ancient times, there have been natural and man-made disasters, each with its own cause and effect. While I do not like conflict, I do not abhor it either. Everything you see is a result of the Tao rules. The calamity in the human world stems from ambition, and more beings are swept along by the flow against their will. I know you seek revenge, but perhaps before you succeed, your enemies might just die in war, like your parents. You may harbor hatred, but you should consider who to hate and what to do after. These are the things you need to ponder." Mo Xuandi hesitated to speak. Guan continued, "The primordial Tao Emperor will project through the reincarnation of all heavens. When everyone reaches that stage, they will undergo the pain you are experiencing. Once you reach that point, you may return to me to ask about revenge. To not enter the free immortal realm, one can't leave the 9-spirit continent." This was a rule set by Guan for his third-generation disciples, and no one could bypass it. Every disciple was informed of this before entering Beginningless, but at that time, they were all immersed in the vastness of the realm and had not realized how lengthy the years would be to reach the Zizai immortal realm. Upon hearing this, Mo Xuandi immediately thanked Guan. He held hatred in his heart, but it was not directed at any individual. He loathed the world's conflict, believing that following Guan in cultivation would lead him to the answers he sought. "Ancestor, it's my turn. If the primordial Tao Emperor projects through the heavens, can I inject my consciousness, for example, to spread my writings?" Shangguan Sienna raised her hand to ask. After asking, she looked at Guan with anticipation. The other disciples didn't give it much thought. They knew Shangguan Sienna loved writing, but were unaware of how broad her range was. With an unchanged expression, Guan replied, "That's a good idea. If you can achieve it, you might pave a path of your own. To inject your consciousness, you need to study the great Tao of cause and effect, soul, and reincarnation comprehensively. Just comprehending one great Tao won't suffice." Time continued to pass. Only until the next morning did the question and answer session conclude. Guan stood up, ready to go for a walk. Boom! A tremendous explosion erupted in the distance, causing the ground to tremble. The disciples discussing their insights from the lecture all stood up and turned to look in the direction of the sound. Guan paid no attention and left alone. The third-generation disciples gathered around their respective mentors to ask where the commotion came from. "The war is about to reach the 9-spirit continent." An Exan gazed towards the horizon, murmuring. These words changed the complexions of the third-generation disciples. Was the Qinkuan sect going to be attacked? After leaving the courtyard, Guan arrived in front of the world gate in just one step. The celestial spirit god was already waiting there. Upon seeing Guan appear, he immediately stood up and saluted. Guan sat down beside him and asked, "After going to the heavenly court realm, what have you discovered?" The celestial gods were not qualified to set foot on the heavenly ascension stairs, but below the celestial court, there was a plain. It served as a transit point for the lower realm of the immortal gods, where many immortals would exchange information or conduct transactions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 709. The celestial spirit god began to tell Guan the information he had gathered in the lower realm. He hadn't found any news about Yang Jian, but he had discovered information about the struggle for the Son of Heaven. It is said that a Son of Heaven is recruiting immortal gods, seemingly searching for something in the 3,000 great worlds. I heard that 2 Sons of Heaven are preparing to engage in a game in the Great Thousand World. This matter has already been permitted by the Venerable. If it is true, it will be an unprecedented disaster for the 3,000 great worlds. When immortal gods fight in the Great Thousand World, they will inevitably bring about destruction. However, Songtian can repair the Great Thousand World. But even so, 90% of the cultivators will perish. At this point, the celestial spirit god looked at Guin, furrowing his brows. Guin asked, "Why?" "Because the immortal gods will recruit cultivators to fight for them. The struggle for the Son of Heaven is merely a matter of pride, no matter who wins or loses. Even if the celestial court discovers it, the punishment will be insignificant. But the immortal gods under the Son of Heaven will recruit cultivators to do their bidding. Cultivators recklessly involving themselves in the struggles of the celestial court will incur Kangxin's punishment." The celestial spirit god sighed, and Guin also remained silent. This matter is indeed unsolvable. Even if they inform the cultivation forces of the 3,000 great worlds about this point, cultivators will still fight for the hope of ascending to immortality. The path of cultivation is inherently about competing with others and contending with heaven and earth. Although Guin cannot yet see such a future, through the words of the celestial spirit god, he can already foresee how dark those years will be. "How long do you estimate it will be before the struggle for the Son of Heaven sweeps across the 3,000 great worlds?" Guin asked. The celestial spirit god replied, "In the celestial court, there's the immortal years concept. One day in heaven is a year in the human world. According to the time in the human world, it could be as fast as 10 million years, or as slow as several hundred million years. Such is the difference between immortals and mortals. To the immortal gods, 10 million years pass quickly, but for the human world, 10 million years are enough to change the course of history. Fortunately for Guin, time isn't that rapid either. 10 million years are enough for his power to soar. Of course, even if this catastrophe were to erupt now, he wouldn't be afraid. He exists at the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm level. Even in the celestial court, if he's not the strongest, he wouldn't be an easy target either. What about the two sons of heaven's strength? Will they personally take part? Guin asked. That's not something I could investigate, but they will certainly take action. Such struggles have occurred many times before. To become the celestial emperor, besides being powerful, one must also rely on the strength they control. Therefore, they will first act as the players. If they are on the brink of losing it all, they will undoubtedly step in personally. The celestial court is the same. The celestial emperor is supreme, often in seclusion or asleep in reincarnation. But if the celestial court encounters a catastrophic calamity, the celestial emperor will certainly act, capable of turning the tide. The celestial spirit god showed a look of longing and then recounted some legends about the celestial emperor. In the celestial court, even if the celestial emperor hasn't appeared, his legends are enough to make all immortal gods trust in his abilities. The celestial court has controlled the heavens for countless years, and the reason they have their current status is that they've suppressed wave after wave of opponents and rebels. Even when the chaos evil demons launched a massive invasion, they couldn't shake the celestial court's celestial Tao destiny. The legends told by the celestial spirit god were exaggerated, almost praising the celestial emperor to be omnipotent, as if without the celestial court, the celestial emperor would still be the most powerful being, capable of suppressing all beings. Guin thought these legends weren't false. He compared the disparity in strength between the celestial court and the 3,000 great worlds, and even without counting the celestial emperor, the celestial court was terrifyingly powerful. With so many immortal gods, there are always those with ambition. For the celestial emperor to permanently occupy that seat, his power must be overwhelmingly superior. After discussing the celestial emperor, the celestial spirit god asked, "Master, how do you view the celestial spirit great world? Do you let it be, or find a way to help them avoid this catastrophe? As long as they don't support the immortal gods, even if affected, they can be resurrected by Tsangtian after death. If we do nothing once the news spreads, they will surely choose to assist a son of heaven." So the novel, Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Between the two sons of heaven vying for power, there will be one winner. But even following the winner, besides a few can ascending to immortality, others will face Kangxin's punishment. Even as a son of heaven, they don't have the authority to distribute a large number of celestial Tao immortal positions. Guin replied, If I can protect the entire world, I won't refuse. I just won't join the internal conflict. You and I have lived in this great world for many years, not without grace, but also with fate. Find a way to help them avoid it, but don't expose our existence. This matter doesn't need him to act personally. The celestial spirit god now serves him and naturally has to work on it. Of course, Guin wouldn't treat him unfairly. After finishing the official matters, Guin began to expound the Tao for the celestial spirit god. Even after becoming a celestial god, cultivation is necessary, but the higher one ascends, the more challenging it becomes. Guin used his achievement in Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal to guide the celestial spirit god, which was a great opportunity for the celestial spirit god. The celestial spirit god had never stepped into the celestial court, and he naturally couldn't access teachings from supreme immortals or the celestial Tao Venerable. Every time Guin expounded the Tao, the celestial spirit god listened intently. Serving Guin wasn't just to protect himself and his son Tian Hao. He also wanted to improve. No matter how strong his talent, the endpoint could only be a star monarch, but now the situation was different. The celestial spirit god's ambition was also growing, and he was consciously paving the way for Guin and Wuxia. Above the sea of clouds, a beam of blue light swept across. On closer inspection, it was a blue round fan, and on the fan stood a dozen figures, led by the Eternal Life Venerable who had previously visited the celestial spirit great world. Yang Jian, clad in silver armor, stood among the crowd, his gaze continually scanning the surroundings, admiring all the scenery along the way. In the distance, the sea of clouds surged, transforming into various shapes that were magnificently breathtaking. Occasionally, true dragons and phoenixes leapt out from the sea of clouds, raising clouds and mist. Brother Yang, you are fortunate. Upon your first arrival, you can accompany the Master to the Tao lecture. That white-haired ancestor is a celestial Tao Venerable, staying outside the celestial court most of the year, seldom returning. She's also among the few willing to expound the Tao. A gray-robed Taoist looked at Yang Jian and said with a gentle smile. All those around were immortal gods, with the lowest immortal position being a star monarch. There were even main deities and immortal monarchs present. Each of them possessed an imposing aura and unfathomable presence. Yang Jian couldn't help but curiously ask, Celestial Tao Venerable? Is someone bearing the title of Venerable the highest in the celestial court's immortal position? The gray-robed Taoist smiled. Naturally. Even among celestial Tao Venerables, there are degrees of superiority. When we encounter them, we must salute and dare not offend in our hearts, or the heavenly Tao will punish us. When you meet her, you will never forget it. Being able to behold a celestial Tao Venerable is a great blessing in itself. Tsangtian will greatly increase our celestial Tao destiny, saving us years of arduous cultivation. Moreover, the Tao teachings of a celestial Tao Venerable are beyond your imagination, certain to yield abundant gains for you. These words made Yang Jian even more expectant of the upcoming Tao lecture. He also felt more grateful to Guin Master. I am about to face a celestial Tao Venerable and listen to her teachings. If you knew, would you be pleased for me? Yang Jian felt a bit regretful because he felt he was attending in place of his master. Such a grand opportunity should have belonged to his master. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 710, Great Tao Reincarnation, True Self Return. Guin did not know that Yang Jian was thinking about him. He continued to live his leisurely life, and besides regularly harvesting mature medicinal herbs, he began to travel the human world. In this turbulent era, more features of the human world emerged. Observing and experiencing them helped him in his enlightenment. He always felt that understanding the Great Tao didn't necessarily require walking the path of the Great Tao, as the Tao is omnipresent, and from the microscopic, one can observe the vast. As warfare engulfed the entire realm, living souls perished daily, the Tao court was besieged, and the attacking sects were numerous, making it easy to control the world's narrative. When the war reached a stalemate, the image of the Tao court in people's hearts began to overturn. Later, the Tao court was portrayed as the most evil force in the human world, the root of all calamities. The mortal spirit knew nothing of the golden ages from tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago. They only knew that various sects currently attacked the Tao court, and with the addition of those rumors, they loathed the Tao court deeply. Another 220,000 years passed since the celestial spirit god informed Groom about the struggle for the Son of Heaven. The Tao court finally came to its day of dissolution. Legend has it that the defense lines of the Tao court were breached in various directions. To safeguard the lives of the Tao court's disciples, the Ting Master announced its dissolution, and the once dominant entity fragmented, plunging the world into a kind of frantic chaos. The foundations of the Tao court were too deep, and the disciples fled the court by faction, leading to a lot of infighting during this process, while cultivators from other sects, hearing the news, madly rushed into the Tao court to seize opportunities. Dark clouds rolled, smoke filled the air, and Groom and Xiaolan stood on a cliff, watching a great city in the distant mountains engulfed in flames, with countless cultivators flying in and out, and battles even occurring in the distance. The glow of the flames shone on Xiaolan's face, her expression very calm, her long purple dress fluttering in the wind, untainted by dust. Groom turned his head to look at her and asked, "Any regrets?" The great city ahead was one of the Tao court's cities, once a prosperous hub for immortal cultivation trade, renowned throughout half the world, and now reduced to such a state, sigh-inducing indeed. Although Xiaolan did not intend to perish alongside the Tao court, having stayed there for 1,000,000 years, she did have feelings for it. The Ting Master is still alive, just gone to outer heaven, the legacy is still there, passed on to the disciples, and now it's only the name of the Tao court that is gone. What's there to regret? Xiaolan said calmly, gazing into the distance. If Groom couldn't hear her inner thoughts, he might truly believe she didn't care. However, with the Tao court about to become a thing of the past, the living must look forward. Brother Groom, for the first time, I feel the fierce current of the human world's greater situation. Even the strong Ting Master and the Tao court couldn't withstand the overwhelming will of the masses. The so-called Taoist lineage, what is its true meaning of existence? Xiaolan asked softly, her eyes subtle. Over the years, she felt the pressure on the Tao court, with endless enemies coming from all directions, everything in heaven and earth condemning the Tao court, and even many disciples within the Tao court reflecting on what went wrong with it. However, the fact is, the 100 sects of the human world wanted to overturn the Tao court, and the Tao court lacked absolute strength to suppress them. If it were only a matter of strength, it would be fine, but the fall of the Tao court was so disgraced, collapsing in an evil guise. Years later, would the world think of the Tao court as the demon sect? A Taoist lineage originally serves the purpose of spreading the Tao, imparting knowledge, mutually discussing the Tao, and jointly promoting the exploration of the great Tao. What you worry about may not happen. Although the Tao court's current reputation is poor, over the long years, it has helped many living beings, and those deeds will be remembered by those with heartfelt appreciation and eventually etched into history. Groom replied, stating facts. Not to mention those beings who are grateful or aspiring towards the Tao court, the 100 sects of the human world will eventually follow in the Tao court's footsteps, and then, later generations wishing to topple them will naturally rehabilitate the Tao court to slander them. Right and wrong, black and white will be judged by future generations, and indeed these distinctions will disappear over time. In this era, looking back, how many people remember the Holy Court and Immortal Dynasty? In the red dust of the great Tao, nothing truly matters. So-called history is just a possession of the human world. Discussing history in the face of the great Tao seems somewhat ridiculous. Groom finally understood why those great power cultivators viewed the masses with indifference. Living long enough, one realizes that all things seem to go through a kind of reincarnation, where good and bad will both turn to dust, and what can be done eventually becomes futile. Of course, Groom merely lamented slightly. He always felt he was human, not immortal, and the most important thing for people is emotion. He wouldn't deliberately erase his feelings. Whatever he cherishes, he will protect, seeking only peace of mind. Xiao Lan was also contemplating Gu Annis' words, but recalling all sorts of past events made her feel like she had experienced a vast and illusory dream. When she glanced at Guan beside her, she felt a sense of solidity. The road they traveled was not a dream. What are your plans for the future? Will you cultivate in my dojo? Guan looked at Xiao Lan and asked. The dissolution of the Dao court did have an impact on Xiao Lan, and over the years, past memories had continuously flashed in her mind. The former Yi Lan was about to return. Xiao Lan was lively and innocent, while Yi Lan was more rational and had her own ambitions. Forget about it. I want to return to the Xiao family to protect them. In the future, I will visit you at the Nine-Spirit Continent, and you can always come to find me. I should grow up and cannot always cling to you. Xiao Lan looked at Guan and said seriously. Guan smiled, looking at her expression, knowing that his junior sister was indeed about to return. As for his junior sister, he wouldn't treat her like the other disciples who went out. He would proactively visit her. Then let's go. I'll accompany you to the Xiao family. After all, I have some ties with the Xiao family. Guan laughed and then raised his right hand. Xiao Lan smiled, took his hand, and they disappeared from where they stood. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A few days later, Guan returned alone to Within the Beginningless. Today, Within the Beginningless was somewhat lively because LV Xian had returned. The disciples gathered in Gu An's courtyard to listen to LV Xian recount his experiences and the state of the world. The third-generation disciples had never seen LV Xian and were full of curiosity about this senior from the sect. After learning that Within the Beginningless had a third generation of disciples, LV Xian no longer acted frivolously, instead putting on a grandmaster demeanor. Junior Master LV, in your view, which sect will be the next world ruler? And Zin's second disciple, Jiang Lan, asked curiously. The other disciples also stared intently at LV Xian. LV Xian, being out for years, would surely discern the trend. LV Xian pondered, just about to answer, when he suddenly saw Gu An's figure at the courtyard entrance. His eyes lit up, and he immediately dashed over to Guan, bowing in salute. Master, I have important matters to tell you. Can we speak privately? LV Xian said excitedly. In front of Guan he didn't bother to pretend. Upon hearing this, Guan nodded slightly, then walked towards his pavilion, and the other disciples all stood up, bending in salute towards him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 7:11. The final trial. Inside the room, Guan sat by the table, pouring tea for himself. LV Xian closed the door, then came before him, mysteriously taking out a long box and placing it on the table. This scene reminded Guan of the time LV Xian handed him the Celestial Dao Immortal Stone, making him feel both amused and helpless. Before LV Xian arrived, Guan already knew what this guy was going to present, but he still chose to ask LV Xian, "What is this?" In response to Gu An's inquiry, LV Xian chuckled, "Another immortal god's opportunity. In beginning to suspect an immortal god descended to the mortal world. Inside is a piece of divine wood, containing a chance to ascend to immortality. It said that there's a supreme immortal god traveling through the Dao universe, seemingly searching for something. If you can assist him, you may gain immortal fate." Guan nodded slightly but felt contemptuous in his heart. The Son of Heaven and his immortal gods, resorting to such petty tricks, creating mystique out of nonsense. Guan spoke, "Don't get involved in this causality." He recounted the competition between the Son of Heaven to LV Xian, who listened in astonishment. LV Xian had suspected whether it was a scheme or a trap, but didn't expect such a struggle hidden behind it. Would the Son of Heaven use all living beings as chess pieces in the competition between his children? Afterward, the heavenly Tao won't severely punish the Son of Heaven but will impose celestial punishment on those cultivators participating in the immortal god's conflicts? LV Xian felt both absurd and aggrieved. He had a certain admiration for immortal gods. To be precise, all cultivators aspire to ascend to immortality, and everyone has a vision of immortal gods in their hearts. LV didn't believe immortal gods had necessary protection duties towards all living beings, but he felt immortal gods were exalted, distinct from mortals, and the struggle between immortal gods should be a confrontation between them. How could they toy with mortal spirits who are vastly weaker? Search *the Nephire. @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He suddenly understood why his master refused to ascend to immortality. Such immortal gods, such a celestial court, indeed seemed narrow-minded. Maybe in the future, another group of immortal gods will replace them. Master, then how should we handle this? LV looked up at Guin and asked. Guin glanced at the long box on the table, which immediately caught fire. LV opened his mouth but ultimately chose to remain silent. Even knowing the scheme behind this causality, he still harbored a slight delusion in his heart, thinking, what if he chose the right side and they kept their promise? Seeing the long box turn to ashes, he felt a sense of relief. Even he has such complex thoughts, let alone those cultivators with stronger ambitions. This item is truly dreadful. LV could already envision the terrifying scenes of various heavens waging war for the sake of immortal gods, surely much more dreadful than the human world battles that lasted hundreds of thousands of years before. Guin looked at LV and said, now that you're back, spend some more time cultivating in the dojo. Unlike Chen Chuan, you're not entangled by the sect. Faced with his instruction, LV naturally dared not refuse and could only agree. Guin waved his hand, signaling LV to withdraw. Once the door was closed, Guin brought up the attribute panel. Name, Guin, lifespan, 1487, 902/99, 890, 816, 785, 408, physique, primordial Tao creation body, cultivation level, perfect Taoist great Luo immortal realm, approaching 100 trillion year lifespan. By then, he would be able to break through. Thinking about reaching a higher realm soon, Guin couldn't help but feel excited. Even without an imminent strong enemy, he enjoyed the feeling of continuously growing stronger, especially when he could compare himself with others. Besides the next realm, he was curious about what features a 100 trillion year lifespan would unlock. Would there be another feature upgrade? The enhancements in life expectancy predictions suited his taste. Although occasional hints would disturb his mind, knowing how many potential foes there were, and who they were, brought him more anticipation. Since I have so much lifespan, should I use 10 million years for a lifespan reincarnation? Guin suddenly had a whim. Because of the long family causality, he dared not easily implement lifespan reincarnation, opting more to use lifespan projection now. Anyway, he had interfered with enough causality. Why trouble himself unnecessarily? Even aside from him, other great power cultivators also changed the causality of others, heavens, and universe on their path to greater strength. The causality of the great Tao has never been fixed, constantly changing. True glimpse into the future isn't seeing one outcome, but seeing countless outcomes, choosing the most suitable one for oneself. With this thought, Guin immediately initiated the lifespan reincarnation. An overdue prompt appeared before his eyes, symbolizing the imminent start of lifespan reincarnation. Beneath the blue sky, endless mountains undulated like the spines of ancient dragon beasts, fierce and spiky. On a mid-mountainside, Zhang Buku and Su Yu sat cross-legged together, gazing at a landscape filled with the sitting figures of heavenly soldiers as far as the eye could see. Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes, looking up towards the celestial vault. Shortly after, Zhang Buku also opened his eyes. More and more heavenly soldiers opened their eyes, all gazes directed towards the celestial vault. In the vast expanse of blue sky appeared a crack, lightning woven through it, as if the celestial vault had been cleaved open, frightening and daunting. From within the crack stepped a figure, radiating golden light like a brilliant sun in the sky. It was the celestial calming god. Upon seeing the celestial calming god, all the heavenly soldiers stood up. After their previous defeat on the path of the Great Tao, they had been cultivating in this realm, waiting for the celestial calming god to arrange a new trial. They were still a long way from ascending to immortality and becoming gods, far enough to make many feel like giving up, yet helplessly so. Next will be the final trial. Only 100,000 heavenly soldiers can emerge, and these top 100,000 will gain celestial Tao destiny. Once their cultivation level is sufficient, they can become gods like me. The voice of the celestial calming god resonated across the entire world, causing every heavenly soldier's breathing to quicken, Zhang Buku included. Yet Zhang Buku felt a bit regretful. He wanted more time to accumulate cultivation. Compared to other heavenly soldiers, he was too young, and facing the final trial now was quite a disadvantage for him. Though his cultivation level didn't hold an advantage, Zhang Buku still had some confidence. 100,000 spots, more than he had anticipated. Suyu smirked, saying in a low voice, "Looks like some immortal gods need to use us, blessings or curses unknown." Zhang Buku didn't care after hearing this. Ever since following the celestial calming god, they had undertaken various missions, escaping death multiple times. Having come this far, he was determined to ascend to immortality. He would ascend not just for himself. He aimed to find his parents in reincarnation and visit Master Gu and Liya. In his view, Master Gu and Liya had long passed away. Over 1,000,000 years had passed, and the foundation of that realm was far from enough to allow the two to live till today, not to mention their talent wasn't extraordinary. Zhang Buku took a deep breath, fists clenched, with a fire of determination burning in his eyes. Suyu glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head. This guy was getting hyped again. Even after all these years together, Suyu still couldn't understand why he got so easily excited. This final trial will begin in this realm. You need not kill each other but will decide victory through reincarnation. The top 100,000 heavenly soldiers who emerge from reincarnation will succeed, while the remainder will be lost in reincarnation forever, never to transcend. The voice of the celestial calming god sounded once more, dampening the fervor of the heavenly soldiers. Lost in reincarnation forever? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 712. In the Taiwei Great World. Zhu Shi, clad in white, stood on the clouds gazing down at the vast earth below. Behind her followed hundreds of people, all exuding extraordinary auras, similarly looking down at the earth, their faces filled with shock. Following their gaze, the endless land below was in complete disarray, with potholes everywhere, mountains flattened, and smoke pervading the heavens and earth, threatening to overturn the sea of clouds. At the edge of the land was a sea of fire, tens of thousands of feet high, seemingly about to devour the entire world. A truly majestic sight. Zhu Shi narrowed her eyes. In that terrifying sea of fire, she saw a figure that filled her eyes with fear. Who is that? How dare he attack the divine court's boundary mountain? How terrifying! Those divine court's great powers were annihilated instantly. He seemed somewhat deranged. Could he be in demonic possession? Even if he's possessed, to have such terrifying power, his cultivation level must be extraordinarily high. It doesn't matter. As long as he's not coming for us, we shouldn't act rashly. The cultivators discussed among themselves. Although Zhu Shi didn't participate in their discussion, she was equally curious. Having stood in the Taiwei Great World for hundreds of thousands of years, it was the first time she had seen anyone so powerful and daring to take such action against the divine court. Her intuition told her that even more terrifying events were about to unfold, and the Taiwei Great World would face an unprecedented catastrophe. She hesitated, unsure whether she should flee the Taiwei Great World. The divine court had been colluding with the immortal gods, committing heinous acts. She always felt that the divine court's actions would eventually be exposed, leading to a transformation of the Taiwei Great World. She wanted to replace the divine court and establish a new holy court. After hundreds of thousands of years of effort, she finally built a force. To give it up so easily was an excruciating decision. The figure in the sea of fire gave her an inexplicable sense of familiarity. At that moment, an immense oppressive force descended upon the entire world. Zhu Shi and the others looked up, only to see a mass of black energy diving from the horizon beyond the sea of clouds, unstoppable. This mass of black energy plunged into the endless sea of fire at an incredible speed. The sea of fire scattered, stirring up strong winds that ravaged the heavens and earth. Zhu Shi and the others immediately began cultivating energy to resist the scorching fire winds. Zhu Shi squinted, seeing the black energy disappear as it crashed into the sea of fire. She had seen this black energy before. It belonged to a great power of the divine court, whose cultivation reached the heavens and earth, once plunging her into despair. Fortunately, in that battle, the target was another person, and she was merely caught up in it, eventually narrowly escaping danger. Zhu Shi harbored an absurd suspicion in her heart. "You? Who are you indeed?" A terrified voice echoed, shocking the other cultivators around Zhu Shi. They recognized this voice as well. It belonged to Li Chengfeng, a great cultivator of the divine court. Li Chengfeng was a heaven-encompassing free immortal, a famous divine general of the divine court, known for slaughtering countless enemies and having a fearsome reputation. When they faced Li Chengfeng, they could only look up in fear. They had never heard him speak in such a tone. Fear, despair. Did Li Chengfeng get defeated just after descending? Hundreds of divine senses probed simultaneously, followed by gasps of shock. "Retreat!" Zhu Shi immediately ordered, turning around to leave first, with the others following closely. No one hesitated, all scared out of their wits. In the distance, the sea of fire dispersed, revealing a white-haired man with a bare upper body standing on an extensive charred plain. He held a purple-robed man's neck, lifting him high. This purple-robed man was Li Chengfeng of the divine court, with disheveled hair and a face full of blood, his eyes filled with terror. One move. With just one move, the opponent shattered his Dao fruit, causing all his mana to dissipate. He had no strength to break free, only awaiting death. The unfathomable power of the opponent disturbed him, foreshadowing great trouble for the divine court. He had never encountered such an enemy, whose very presence filled him with unease. The white-haired man was tall and muscular, his upper bodice muscles well-defined, with flame-like blood marks on his fair skin and a handsome face, but with eerie pale pupils. "Longevity fruit. Longevity fruit," the white-haired man asked coldly, his voice intermittent, seemingly incoherent. Li Chengfeng gritted his teeth and said, "I have never heard of the longevity fruit. If that is your only goal, I can have the divine court help you search for it." Crunch! Li Chengfeng's neck was suddenly broken, his words cut short. His eyes widened, his divine soul unable to escape his body, and he turned to ash, scattering with the wind. The white-haired man turned around, flying in a certain direction. Sar the novel, F.I.R. at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. On the other side, Zhu Shi and her group were still fleeing rapidly, sensing Li Chengfeng's aura abruptly vanish, indicating his probable death. What kind of being could make a great power like Li Chengfeng fall in such a short time? Zhu Shi was equally shocked, unable to forget the image of the white-haired man in her mind. Facing such a terrifying being, she couldn't think of anything else, her heart filled with dread. Bang! A thunderous roar suddenly erupted from behind, engulfing Zhu Shi and her group in dazzling light, followed by an unfathomable strong wind. At the same time, in the depths of the universe, before the world gate, a celestial god opened his eyes, reflecting the scene of the Taiwei Great World within them. From the universe's perspective, the Taiwei Great World appeared as a glowing continent, surrounded by countless little worlds. At this moment, the glowing continent was trembling, with billowing black smoke emerging from a certain area. Where does this person come from? The celestial god muttered to himself, beginning to calculate with his fingers, his expression growing increasingly strange. War Spirit Holy Mansion, Taishangju. It's actually him? He's still alive? The celestial god furrowed his brows, then stood up, turning to walk into the world gate. A storm gusted from the depths of the universe, but the world gate remained unmoved, unaffected. The storm lasted for a long time, and when the turbulence subsided, the celestial god had not returned. On the other side of the universe, the strong light of the Taiwei Great World was gradually fading. The white-haired man suddenly appeared in the void, holding a person in his hand. Does the War Spirit Holy Mansion intend to oppose the Celestial Court? The person held by the white-haired man was an old Taoist with an immortal aura, none other than the immortal monarch Han Sha, hidden within the divine court. He could see the cause and effect of the white-haired man, linked to the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a powerful court outside the jurisdiction of the Celestial Court. The white-haired man, Tai Shangju, ignored him, grabbing his head and stepping into the void. A time-space rift appeared in front, into which he stepped, dragging the immortal monarch Han Sha with him, disappearing without a trace as the rift quickly closed, as if nothing had happened. But the celestial Tao immortal light of the Taiwei Great World was fading, indicating a titanic battle had just occurred. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 713, Tao Saint Heartswish. The waves incessantly washed up on the beach, crashing against the rocks, sending up sprays of water. In the distance, demon birds hovered over the sea, wary of approaching the shore. On the beach, Guan sat in meditation, his eyes closed, the whirlpool of spiritual energy around him slowly dissipating. The sky gradually turned yellow, dusk nearing. A meteor streaked across the sky, piercing the sea of clouds, aiming towards Guan. Just as the meteor was about to strike Guan, he suddenly raised his hand and caught the meteor in his grasp. He opened his right palm to reveal a white jade stone, the size of a pigeon egg, in his hand, refracting a crystalline light, exuding a mysterious beauty. Guan slowly opened his eyes, looking at the white jade stone in his hand with a complex expression. He had just received the inheritance memories of lifespan reincarnation, his mind awash with emotions and thoughts. He had experienced another life. This lifetime was far longer and grander than the previous ones combined. Perhaps it was related to Gu An's current cultivation level, as this lifetime's cultivation far surpassed the former ones, even reaching the realm of Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. The endpoint of lifespan reincarnation varies with the state of one's cultivation beforehand. Even with unparalleled talent, one might still succumb to certain misfortunes. Unlike previous reincarnations, this reincarnation body still lived. More precisely, it lived in Gu An's current timeline, destined to die in the future. The reincarnation body was born in the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a Taoist lineage as ancient as Ling Mountain, unrelated to the battle court. Named Taishangju, like other reincarnation bodies, he was born in suffering and grew through countless hardships. The current Taishangju had already reached the cultivation level of Miaojin Daoyuo Immortal. He would fall to the celestial court when he achieved Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Guan could sense that if he tried to contact Taishangju, he would face unimaginable repercussions of karmic retribution. Taishangju had already vaguely sensed his own karma, so before leaving the Great Thousand World, he scattered many white jade stones imbued with his Tao intent and hidden obsessions. Fearing exposure of his connection with Guan, he created these white jade stones. While they appeared to spread fortune, only his true self could fully comprehend them. Reincarnation is unstoppable, and past lives will eventually become fleeting clouds, yet obsessions might transcend reincarnation. Guan toyed with the white jade stone, pondering silently. Lu Han's obsession was his son Lu Qiuxian. Yang Xian's was the sacred heart sword Dao. The Black Profound Emperor's was his senior sister, Fairy by Xian. The Emperor of Eternal Lives' obsession was Fairy Yaoxian. Taishangju's obsession was to save his master. Born in War Spirit Holy Mansion, Taishangju's family was killed by enemies within the mansion right after his birth. If not for the chance encounter with the red dust ancestor, he would have died too, and the Taishang lineage would have been completely eradicated. The red dust ancestor took a liking to him because he was born with a Tao Saint heart. The Tao Saint heart is a rare fortune in the great Tao, allowing effortless comprehension of the Tao, immunity to all evils and invulnerability to all magic. He cultivated under the red dust ancestor for millions of years, reaching the Taiching golden immortal realm before venturing out on his own. He traveled to many places, including Ling Mountain. Notably, he encountered the celestial Buddha before he accepted the Emperor of Eternal Life as his disciple. Guwen speculated that this karma might be one reason for the Buddha's protection of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Despite his tragic beginnings, Taishang had a bold and outgoing nature, always making friends through combat. Regardless of gender, if he wished to befriend someone, he first proposed a spar, though never forcing those who refused. He even befriended immortal gods, many of whom sought to ascend to immortality. One celestial god aspired to become the god of destruction. Linking this to the Black Profound Emperor's memories, Guwen speculated that the celestial god and the god of destruction might indeed be the same person. Taishang, now a Miao Zhen Daluo immortal, was born earlier than previous reincarnation bodies. His life was even more remarkable than that of the Emperor of Eternal Life, filled with justice and enmity, adored by many daughters of heaven. Yet, he was solely devoted to the Tao, saving many worlds and leaving behind legends and myths. However, life's journey was not always smooth. The celestial court sought to recruit him into the immortal class, but he refused, even clashing with immortal officials, completely defying celestial rules, incurring the celestial court's pursuit. After narrowly escaping death several times, he was attacked by a supreme immortal. As he was about to die, his master, the red dust ancestor, appeared and saved him, though suffering severe injuries and a curse from the heavenly Tao. The master and disciple fled to a mysterious universe. The red dust ancestor sealed himself, instructing that only the legendary eternal fruit could save him. Taishang was devastated. To him, the red dust ancestor was not just a master but a father. This was his first true setback, deeply affecting him. He changed completely, not immediately seeking the eternal fruit but focusing on cultivation, aiming to reach the supreme immortal's realm before re-emerging. Unfortunately, he underestimated the celestial court's power. Just as he set foot on the path of the great Tao, immortal gods pursued him. Luckily, his cultivation was strong enough that the initial waves of immortal gods couldn't handle him. Until the celestial Tao Venerable attacked, casting him into the desperate celestial tomb, where he endured the curse. Over the long years, Taishang gradually lost consciousness. It wasn't until much later that he sensed a karma similar to his own. Using this karma to break free from the desperate celestial tomb, he escaped, leaving the other person behind in his place. Guwen guessed this karma belonged to Fairy Yaoxian, specifically to her unborn child, the son of the Emperor of Eternal Life, Sin. Comprehending his origin and karma, Taishang sensed his connection with the Emperor of Eternal Life. Both men realized they were reincarnation bodies, completing each other's redemption in their respective lives. Fairy Yaoxian suffered a karmic backlash, unable to return to the Tao. But the desperate celestial tomb was unique. Her child could hide there with time standing still. The giant palace where Sin resided was created by Taishang, shielding him from the tomb's evil forces. Taishang saved the Emperor of Eternal Live's son while the Emperor, through his offspring, helped Taishang escape the tomb's suppression. Thinking of this, Guwen felt deeply moved and somewhat proud. No wonder it's him. After escaping the tomb, Taishang wandered the void of the Great Tao for a long time before returning to the Great Thousand World recently. He harbored a deep hatred for immortal gods but felt a slight kinship with Zhu Shi, deriving from their shared karma. That's why he acted against the immortal gods of the divine court. Though he seemed insane, he retained a shred of his will. He captured Han Sha, immortal monarch, to investigate the plot behind the demon god, intending to use the immortal gods for finding the eternal fruit. Taishang was unaware of his destiny, but Guwen, having inherited his memories, knew. Taishangju would cause many upheavals, ultimately falling to the celestial court, never finding the eternal fruit before his demise. He scattered the white jade stones across the 3,000 great worlds, fearing such an outcome. If he failed, he hoped his true self would help him find the eternal fruit. Since it's my own request, I naturally must help you. Guan looked down at the white jade stone, thinking thus. Inheriting Taishangju's memories deepened his comprehension of the great Tao, and his soul began to transform. See Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Tao Saint Heart. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 714. He is also my master. Taishang's life was extraordinary and moving. To the very end, he became a figure representing rebellion against the celestial authority in the hearts of all living beings. Guan could not intervene in Taishang's life, nor did he intend to. Taishangju was his reincarnation body, and Guan had a guiding role in the path Taishangju walked. After all, during lifespan reincarnation, he could make choices for Taishangju. Moreover, Guan discovered that although the reincarnation bodies within lifespan reincarnation couldn't directly interact, they could intertwine through cause and effect. This gave Guan many ideas about the path of cause and effect. Lifespan reincarnation started from him, so none of his reincarnation bodies would appear in his world. They couldn't meet, nor would they affect each other's lives. The path of reincarnation seemed to have levels. Lower-level reincarnations followed a sequence over time, while higher-level ones could disregard time. Even the Supreme Celestial Emperor enjoyed reincarnation, but no one knew where he was. Taishang's master, the Red Dust Ancestor, once said that the Celestial Emperor was omnipresent at the beginning and end of reincarnation. He could even appear simultaneously in different spaces and times. Could lifespan reincarnation be akin to the Celestial Emperor's path of reincarnation? Guan had wondered whether he might be related to the Celestial Emperor. But as soon as this idea was born, he dismissed it, thinking he was overthinking. His lifespan reincarnation couldn't penetrate the Celestial Court, indicating that Celestial Tao destiny would block lifespan reincarnation. Also, his reincarnation bodies were repeatedly eradicated by Heavenly Court immortals, forming a grudge. Moreover, his reincarnation bodies were destined to die, their lives end visible to him. With the setting sun sinking into the sea, Guan reviewed Taishang's memories while feeling his heart transform into a Tao Saint Heart. Throughout this process, his many great Tao achievements were enhancing. Lifespan reincarnation was a gamble. If a reincarnation body died prematurely, it was a loss. But Taishangju lived long, and the benefits to Guan were immeasurable. Of course, lifespan reincarnation could also bring other cause and effect troubles. Though people couldn't directly deduce his identity through the reincarnation bodies, some causes and effects touched his heart. As night fell, Guan's heart fully transformed into a Tao Saint Heart. Beyond that, he also mastered many of Taishang's divine skills and Taoist techniques. He was Taishangju and Taishangju was him. The night was cool, and the bright moon reflected on the sea. Guan lowered his eyes, crushed the white jade stone in his hand, feeling the Tao intent left by Taishangju, which would guide him to find the seal of the Red Dust Ancestor. After a while, the novel at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan slowly stood up. Desperate celestial tomb, it's time to settle this cause and effect. Guan murmured to himself. With his current cultivation level, he could now detect the location of the desperate celestial tomb and sense the curse and evil forces within it. Sin and Fairy Yaoxian had suffered from the karma retribution from the great Tao of cause and effect, forever barred from the great Tao. The desperate celestial tomb, a special area within the great Tao, could accommodate sin. The grand palace Taishangju built could shield sin from torment. This was the only thing Taishangju could do. His cultivation level was not enough to counter the great Tao of cause and effect. Guan couldn't do it now either, but he was gradually able to see through the desperate celestial tomb. He foresaw that once he reached a higher realm, he could resolve the curse on Sin and bring Sin to Wuxia for cultivation. As for Fairy Yaoxian, still lost to the great Tao of cause and effect, he believed he could trace her through Sin. And Lu Qiuxian in the River of Destiny, Gu and would find a way to help him escape the path of destiny. These tasks were not troublesome for Guan. They were remnants of his past lives, and through these past lives he became stronger. Next, he would wait to live 1 billion years. Gu and his lips curved upward as he disappeared from the spot. After the Tao court dissolved, the world fell into greater chaos. The 100 great sects scrambled for territory and resources, and all living beings gradually awakened. It turned out that the world's illness did not lie with the Tao court. The major sects of the world did not care what the people thought. They only saw unparalleled opportunities and wanted to compete to become the sole ruler of the world. Even the Qiankuan sect went mad, and the 5 leaders, I Ching Shan and others, could hardly control it. 1,000 years later, the human world remained in chaos, with constant slaughter. In a courtyard within the Qiankuan sect, I Ching Shan, Lin Chuan, Cheng Meng, Gu Changxing, and Gu Qingdao were entertaining an Exin. The 5 of them had founded the Qiankuan sect, now renowned across the world. Their disposition and mindset had matured, whereas an Xin seemed younger than them. We are truly old now. Even our juniors no longer listen to us. Cheng Meng sighed while pouring tea for an Xin. The others agreed. The entire Qiankuan sect was eager to expand, placing more value on cultivation resources than the virtues of the righteous Tao. With young talents like Yuan Luo leading the charge, many already sought to force the elders to relinquish power or even step down. An Exin spoke. Since ancient times, any sect that wishes to endure through the ages must undergo such trials. Now is the test for both Qiankuan sect and you. Guan only allowed her to protect the 9-spirit continent, so she couldn't interfere. She watched I Ching Shan and the others founding the Qiankuan sect. Over more than 1 million years, new generations of disciples represented Qiankuan sect, paying tribute to her. Through these disciples, she sensed the growth of the Qiankuan sect. She regretted the fate that awaited it but wouldn't alter it. Forget it, we are tired. We founded the sect to seek revenge and rebuild our homeland. Now that these wishes are fulfilled, it's time to let go. I Ching Shan said with emotion, and the others agreed. They were truly weary and wanted to focus on their cultivation. An Xin did not refute, perhaps it was the best outcome. I Ching Shan hesitated for a moment, then looked at an Xin and asked, "Senior, we've always wanted to know about our master's situation. Does he well?" Back then, they came here knowing Guan was in seclusion. They thought, like them, Guan was under Nzin's protection. After more than 1 million years, Guan often went to Qiankuan sect but never met them. They could never forget the master who taught them immortal cultivation in their youth. Though they no longer remembered his face, his figure remained etched in their minds. An Xin put down her teacup and, under their expectant gaze, said, "He is well." These 3 words brought great joy to the 5. Actually, he is my master too. He has never needed my protection. It is he who protects me. By that, I can be considered your senior sister, an Xin calmly explained. These words left I Ching Shan and the others stunned. They witnessed Nzin's strength but did not know how powerful Guan was, as he once told them his realm was only the foundation establishment realm. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 7:15. Guan turned out to be Nzin's master. This fact deeply shocked I Ching Shan and the other 4, their emotions unable to settle for a long time. It turns out that the master has always been here, secretly supporting them. They were filled with gratitude, and Cheng Meng's tears gushed out uncontrollably. I Ching Shan took a deep breath. He did not question Nzin's words but instead asked, "Can we enter Wuxia to cultivate, serving the old master?" The other 4 snapped back to reality, looking toward an Xin with anticipation. An Xin smiled and said, I can't decide on this matter, I need to ask my master. You should first deal with the Qiankuan sect. Once you enter Wushi, coming out won't be so easy. I Ching Shan and the others naturally knew this, and they hurriedly agreed, promising to handle the aftermath of the Qiankuan sect. Meanwhile, inside Wushi Taoist field, Guan was picking mature medicinal herbs, the ghost mother of ephemera following behind. Suddenly, a series of prompts appeared in front of Guan. Frowny face, your lifespan has broken through for the first time to 100 trillion years, beginning random upgrades of lifespan function. Your lifespan barrier function upgraded, lifespan barrier upgraded successfully. Lifespan barrier. Consume lifespan to activate lifespan barrier, it can block all prying, perception and deduction. The consumed lifespan is determined based on your cultivation aura and the required spiritual energy. The range of the lifespan barrier can be freely manipulated, as expected, it was an upgrade of function. Upgrading to lifespan barrier is indeed a good thing. Guan had long felt the lifespan barrier was too small. He wondered how large the new lifespan barrier could be and how much lifespan it would consume. The most important thing is he can prepare to break through. Guan didn't stop what he was doing, continuing to pick medicinal herbs, only stopping after he finished harvesting all the herbs in this medicine garden. Search * the novel F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. All picked medicinal herbs were collected by the ghost mother of ephemera. Seeing him finished, the ghost mother of ephemera couldn't help but remark, "Master, what I most admire about you is your perseverance. Whether it's writing, painting, or picking medicinal herbs, you can persist for so many years. Watching you pick herbs, I feel every move contains profound meaning, embodying the principles of the great Tao." Guan couldn't help but laugh and said, "Your ability to flatter has reached the transformation realm." "I wasn't flattering, I truly think so," the ghost mother of ephemera said earnestly. After over 1,000,000 years together, she knew Guan was not a stern person, so she dared to speak her mind with him. The great Tao is everywhere. In anything done with persistence, you can sense the Tao. The primordial Tao Emperor perceives the path of natural Tao without fighting. Calming oneself to feel everything around is very important. Guan said sincerely, not speaking nonsense, for indeed the Tao is omnipresent, and the Wushi Taoist field is filled with his Tao intent, making it easier to comprehend the Tao here. The ghost mother of ephemera nodded and said, "I usually strive to understand the Tao and have not neglected cultivation. Although you joined me not through good fortune, after spending so many years together, I've always seen your efforts. You should feel that I treat you like a disciple, right?" Guan said while stretching. The ghost mother of ephemera nodded quickly and said, "Master's kindness to me, I've always seen it. Over 1,000,000 years, she has come to manage the medicinal herbs planting, with the third-generation disciples only assisting her. These treatments made her understand Guan indeed valued her, proving her efforts have moved him." The two chatted casually as they moved forward, with the ghost mother of ephemera cherishing such opportunities. An hour later, Guan finally left Wushi Taoist field alone. He walked in the woods on the edge of the Qiankuan sect, silently practicing lifespan breakthrough. You have activated lifespan breakthrough function, and based on your current realm, the following breakthrough sites are selected for you: 1. Path of the Great Tao, 2. War Spirit Holy Mansion, 3. Hongmeng Great World, 4. Deep Domain, 5. Jiuhong Great World, 6. Endless Tao Mountain, 7. Boundless Yin-Yang Inverted Realm, 8. Final End, 9. Supreme Origin Forest. Some places appeared before, and some were seen for the first time, unheard of. Guan first thought that the foundations of Path of the Great Tao, War Spirit Holy Mansion, Hongmeng Great World, and Endless Tao Mountain are terribly frightening, capable of nurturing beings surpassing Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Like the Great Thousand World, it simply couldn't bear his breakthrough. Now, he felt the celestial spirit Great World was fragile. If he sneezed hard enough, the celestial spirit Great World would shatter. Not just the ground beneath him, the entire universe couldn't withstand his power. Thinking it over, Guan decided to go somewhere new. After all, lifespan breakthrough would transport him to a safe place. Gu N's gaze fell on the ninth option, Supreme Origin Forest, which had appeared before. It was worth checking out. Boundless Yin-Yang Inverted Realm and Final End sounded dangerous and strange, better not to test them. Gu decided. Teleporting to Supreme Origin Forest requires consuming 10 billion years of lifespan. Continue. Continue. Gu made the choice, his figure disappearing from the original spot. After a long-awaited state of no sensation, Gu opened his eyes, immediately activated lifespan barrier, then began to observe his surroundings. He stood above a silver-blue chi sea, with gigantic silver trees towering in front of him. The narrowest tree had a diameter exceeding 1,000 zhang, while far off were terrifying giant trees with diameters surpassing millions, billions of li, making everything seem tiny in comparison. These silver trees were peculiar, entwined with various Tao rules, some even bearing fruits which were transparent, containing slices of heavens and worlds within. He could even sense the vitality of living spirits. Such heavens and worlds numbered countless, more than the stars outside the celestial spirit great world. This is the Supreme Origin Forest. Gu looked down, the silver-blue chi sea underneath felt like solid land, yet within it lay an even more expansive region, deep and unfathomable like another great heaven and earth. He looked carefully and found numerous soul-like entities drifting in the depths, some human-like, some beast-like, bizarre and diverse. Moreover, the Tao spiritual qi here was extremely abundant and very unique. He had never felt such fresh spiritual qi. He looked up again, gazing at the source trees all around. This mysterious and grandiose forest contained a special Tao mystery. Each tree seemed like a part of a formation. The Supreme Origin Forest is extraordinary. Gu stopped thinking further and focused on the lifespan barrier. With the lifespan barrier successfully upgraded, he could use his mind to enter the macro manipulation scene of the lifespan barrier and expand it through thought. The expansion seemed endless. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 716. Breakthrough to Xian Qi Primordial Immortal Gu fumbled around the lifespan barrier at the original spot, eventually expanding the barrier to cover an area equivalent to that of the 9-spirit continent. He called up his attribute panel and invested 100 billion years of lifespan into his physique. Using 400 billion years of lifespan, the primordial reincarnation undying body upgraded to the primordial Tao creation body, but even 1,000 billion years wouldn't be enough for the next advancement. This time, he didn't plan to enhance himself comprehensively but instead focused entirely on his cultivation level. The reason for upgrading his physique was to observe how quickly the lifespan barrier now consumed lifespan. Numerous prompts quickly appeared before his eyes. The 100 billion years of lifespan did not upgrade his physique. Since he already invested in it, he had to succeed. Gu continued to invest lifespan, putting in increments of 100 billion years each time. This investment turned out to be much greater than he anticipated, rapidly surpassing 1 trillion years, making him somewhat regretful. The leap was too significant, from 400 billion years of lifespan to 1 trillion years of lifespan. Gu suddenly felt that even 1 quadrillion years of lifespan wasn't that much. Eventually, the primordial Tao creation body transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body, totaling 5 trillion years of lifespan consumed. From 400 billion years to 5 trillion years, an increase of over 100 times. Just for the addition of infinite? Gu took a deep breath, and the Tao spirit qi of the Supreme Origin Forest began to surge violently into his body. He fixed his gaze on the lifespan barrier, watching the lifespan numbers flash by rapidly. Though faster, the consumption was still within an acceptable range. Before long, numerous Tao insights penetrated his mind, forcing his consciousness to sink into the comprehension of the Tao. The lifespan barrier extracted Tao spirit qi from the Supreme Origin Forest, causing various phenomena to manifest, Tao spirit winds howling through each source tree, while the blue qi sea below surged ever more intensely. An hour later, Gu and successfully transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body. He opened his eyes to find the supreme origin forest still in turmoil, with countless blue stars swirling around each source tree, illuminating the entire world. Not seeing other beings, he focused on the lifespan consumption of the barrier. 3,000 billion years of lifespan. Still acceptable. He now had 940 trillion years of lifespan remaining, though inexplicably, he felt a slight sense of crunch. Taking a deep breath and clearing his mind, he began to invest lifespan into his cultivation level. Starting with 10 trillion years. You have cultivated through qi absorption for 100 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have cultivated through qi absorption for 200 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed 100 billion years each time. Good heavens! Earlier, advancing to Tao extreme Tao Yuo immortal only required 20 billion years each time, highlighting the vast difference between Tao extreme Tao Yuo immortal and primordial Tao fruit. Though this difference created pressure, it also heightened Gu An's anticipation. Previously, breaking through the major realm consumed 23 trillion years of lifespan. This time it should succeed within 50 trillion years lifespan. Calculating the prompts before him, Gu and his heart raced. Ultimately, even investing 10 trillion years of lifespan each time failed to succeed. Gu and remained calm and continued investing lifespan, still putting in 10 trillion years each time. The phenomena in Supreme Origin Forest were calming down, with the giant source trees radiating various shades of silver-blue light, making the whole world seem magical. After a while, Gu An's expression began to turn grim. Even investing 100 trillion years lifespan failed to break through. Clearly, it was impossible to reach the perfection realm for the next major realm this time. No matter what, achieving the next major realm first was a must. A determined look in Gu An's eyes, he continued investing lifespan. However, the next 10 trillion years lifespan also failed to see success. He started to imagine the terror of the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Someday, he would have Yang Jian and Li Xuanmiao investigate this tribulation in the celestial court, to understand the difficulty of the tribulation he was crossing. After a while, Gu An's investment in his cultivation level surpassed 40 trillion years lifespan but still no success. He continued to invest. You have cultivated through qi absorption for 5,400 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have cultivated through qi absorption for 5,500 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation. You withstood the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation succeeded. Your cultivation level advanced to the early stage of Xian Qi primordial immortal realm. You have cultivated through qi absorption for 1 trillion years. Your cultivation level increased. Finally succeeded. From the perfection realm of Tao extreme Tao Yuo immortal to the early stage of Xian Qi primordial immortal realm, it actually took 43,500 billion years of lifespan. Truly exaggerated. So long as the breakthrough succeeded, Gu An was revitalized, anticipating the might of Xian Qi primordial immortal. The Tao spirit Qi in this realm surged abruptly, the dark sky suddenly lit up, and Gu An saw a gigantic mountain larger than the entire celestial spirit great worlds heaven and earth. It wasn't a mountain, but a source tree. Squinting, Gu An saw an even larger presence behind the source tree. So the novel, Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This realm was also boundless, even with the cultivation level of Tao extreme Tao Yuo immortal. it was impossible to see an end in a short time. As Guan was about to break through, the Tao rules within Supreme Origin Forest started to disorderly scatter. Unlike the previous phenomena during breakthroughs, now the Tao rules became perilous, even twisting space. The Tao seemed to sense danger, instinctively resisting, and when the Tao gets angry, the world it built naturally faces upheavals. The blue chi sea beneath Guan surged violently, like a storm-tossed sea, the waves rising higher and higher. Suddenly, Guan glanced into the distance and felt a formidable presence emerging from a distant source tree, stronger than Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, searching for the cause of the Tao disturbance. Such a powerful presence, and it seems closely linked to the source tree here. Could it be that the Supreme Origin Forest is his creation, and he established the formations for the forest distribution? Guan remained vigilant, fortunate that the entity did not fly towards him. Even an existence surpassing Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal couldn't detect the lifespan barrier. As Guan pondered, he suddenly felt numerous presences rushing out from the blue chi sea below, ceaselessly and irresistibly. Boom! In the distance, the blue chi sea exploding and stirring up giant waves, countless silver cheilants of varying sizes rushed out, scrambling for the sky. Guan could sense the strength of these silver cheilants. Even the weakest had the cultivation level of free immortal, and the strongest reached the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. As they sped away, those chaotic Tao rules actually avoided them, not causing them harm, making Guan curious about these silver cheilants. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 717. My name is Guan. Guan watched the group of silver Qilin for a moment, then his consciousness was drawn to the enlightenment of the great Tao breakthrough, and he quickly entered a state of enlightenment. Primordial Tao fruit. This is the final stage of the Tao fruit, and also the beginning of the Tao realm. The so-called Xian Qi belongs to his Tao Qi, and his destiny will converge here as well. The Tao fruit is not just formed to induce mana. Its true goal is to create the great Tao. Guan has already created his great Tao, which is the primordial Tao Emperor. In the unseen, the word primordial has long been inspiring him. The ultimate of Tao is primordial. As Guan comprehended the primordial, he returned to the starting point of each of his lives, repeating his life endlessly. In his past life on Earth Huaxia, he was just an ordinary person, growing up stumbling, working an ordinary job, marrying, having children, and living a life like most people. As Chu Lu, Xiao Xingtian, Long Zhan, Black Profound Emperor, Lu Hanxi, he lived the rugged and arduous life of immortal cultivation. As Ji Shi, he lived an adventurous life of battles, fighting continuously from the moment he gained awareness, constantly breaking through in battles, traveling to different worlds and realms for battles, never stopping until death. As Yang Xian, he was obsessed with sword Tao, living only for the sword. As Emperor of Eternal Life, he could not achieve eternal life due to his obsession, and the repetition of his life left Guan deeply exhausted. As Tai Shangju, he was like a true cultivator, carefree before offending the celestial court, traveling across the heavens, making good friends, experiencing enmities and lovers' feuds, even reincarnating, meeting immortals, going to the 9 netherworlds, and even beyond the great Tao. The breakthrough of lifespan could be completely digested within an hour, but Guan, immersed in reincarnations, seemed to fall into a permanent sleep. When he opened his eyes, his appearance had not changed, but his overall aura had undergone a tremendous transformation. He was no longer a Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, but a Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Opening his eyes again, everything in the Supreme Origin Forest had changed in his eyes. He saw the end of the Supreme Origin Forest, where a blue chi sea flowed down, falling into endless darkness. Everything in the Supreme Origin Forest was in his eyes, including those hiding in the shadows. The powerful existence he had previously startled was a Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Although he couldn't determine if the other's cultivation level was higher than his, The other did not make him feel in danger. Apart from the Xian Qi primordial immortal, the second strongest in the Supreme Origin Forest was a Miao Zhen Daluo immortal, the realm master of the Supreme Origin Forest, ruling over countless living beings, all of whom lived far away. The lifespan breakthrough had transported Guan far from them. Guan could see through their cause and effect. The Xian Qi primordial immortal was the one who created the Supreme Origin Forest. Of course, this world was not created by the Xian Qi primordial immortal. He merely opened those source trees, subduing the Tao spiritual qi of the world under the trees. Those silver qilin were Tao source qilin, divine beasts raised by the Xian Qi primordial immortal. Of course, neither the Tao source qilin nor those living beings knew of the Xian Qi primordial immortal's existence. Like-minded people, reclusive in the world. Guan withdrew his gaze and lowered his head to look at his hands. So strong. Unbelievable that I could become this powerful, Guan murmured to himself. At this moment he felt invincible. He could even sit here and gaze at the 3,000 great worlds, the celestial spirit great world, misty immortal court, and desperate celestial tomb all in his view. Countless parallel worlds, little worlds of varying sizes formed by intertwining cause and effect, all presented before him, enough to drive those immortals insane. Guan looked at his lifespan. This breakthrough had consumed more than 20 trillion years of his lifespan, leaving him with less than 30 trillion years. Breaking through to the perfection realm seemed impossible. But another minor realm breakthrough should not be difficult. Guan began to invest his lifespan into his cultivation level. He spent 19 trillion years of his lifespan and successfully reached the mid-stage of the Xian Qi primordial immortal realm. Opening his eyes again, the Tao rules of the Supreme Origin Forest were still rampant, countless Tao source qilin and cultivators patrolling everywhere, but as vast as this realm was, they never passed over Guan's head. Guan looked at his lifespan, now less than 6 trillion years. Sir, the novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Let's stop here. Guan stood up, looking in the direction of the Xian Qi primordial immortal. He didn't plan to make acquaintances with the other. His breakthrough needed to be kept hidden. Although it needed to be hidden, the leap in strength gave him more confidence to deal with any trouble the celestial court might bring. He could already see the location of the celestial court, where the celestial Tao destiny was vast and scorching, sacred and inviolable. Guan silently activated the teleportation function of the lifespan breakthrough. In fact, he could just jump out directly, but there was a Xian Qi primordial immortal here, and he feared leaving traces. He didn't want to gamble because he could easily earn back this bit of lifespan. After returning to the celestial spirit great world, he didn't go back to the Taoist field of the beginningless but stepped out of the outer heaven, arriving at the desperate celestial tomb. The desperate celestial tomb was still desolate, with dust everywhere, massive buildings buried by sand and wind, mysterious and ominous. Fairy Yaoxuan's 1,000-foot-long finger was still there, pierced into the ground. The original power within had disappeared, replaced by the sinister energy of the desperate celestial tomb. Guan raised his hand and placed the giant finger into his sleeve, then stepped towards the massive palace where Sin was hiding. This 1,000-foot-long finger would have descended upon the 3,000 great worlds in the future, bringing terrible catastrophe to all living beings. But now, this fate had been changed. At least this finger would no longer affect the 3,000 great worlds. As Guan walked, the wind and sand swirled around him, unable to touch him. Sinister powers were brewing within the desperate celestial tomb, but they couldn't harm the Xian Qi primordial immortal. He walked through this realm, completely unaffected. As he walked, he continued to comprehend the desperate celestial tomb. This realm buried an ancient skeleton, too long deceased for Guan to determine its cultivation level. But from this point, it could be inferred it was likely the skeleton of a Xian Qi primordial immortal. Otherwise, why would he need to reach the Xian Qi primordial immortal level to be unaffected by this realm? Guan always felt that the Xian Qi primordial immortal would revive again. The sinister power of this realm was spreading out from his skeleton, as if feeding on the blood and chi of living beings to prepare for resurrection. Of course, this matter had nothing to do with him. He was not interested in interfering with other cause and effect. As long as they didn't provoke him, he would not hinder their path of survival. Finally, he arrived in front of the massive palace where Sin lived. The door was slightly ajar, only a crack visible, but up close, this crack also appeared very wide, the inside pitch black, like a gateway to the 9 nether purgatory. He did not step into the palace, only waited at the crack of the door. Soon, footsteps came from the darkness. A young boy slowly poked his head out of the darkness, curiously looking at Guin, cautiously asking, "Who are you? Why are you here?" He spoke the language of the immortal cultivation realm. It seemed Fairy Yaoxuan's finger had helped him a lot. Guin showed a smile and said, "My name is Guin, I've come to take you home. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 7:18. As the sun set and dusk enveloped the mountain range, Guin and Sin paced through the forest's edge, their shadows elongating under the slanting rays of the sun. Trailing behind Guin, Sin glanced left and right with wide-eyed curiosity. He was fascinated by every flower, plant, and tree, a stark contrast to the lifeless scenery of the desperate celestial tomb. Every now and then, Sin would look towards Guin, his eyes filled with wonder. Although he didn't know Guin, he felt an inexplicable warmth upon first sight. Of course, this was primarily because he had yet to form any perceptions, not understanding good from evil or the intricacies of human nature. As they walked, Guin and Sin encountered one of the third-generation disciples, Jiang Lan, practicing his swordsmanship in the woods. Upon noticing Guin, Jiang Lan immediately stood upright and bowed. He then noticed Sin at Guin's side. Another junior brother? Jiang Lan wondered silently. He scrutinized Sin, noting that despite his young appearance, there was something unusually eerie about his aura. After all, those who entered within the beginningless must be extraordinarily talented. However, here within the beginningless, even such talent is measured by another standard. Jiang Lan considered himself mediocre among the disciples. Guin nodded slightly towards Jiang Lan. As he passed by, he halted and said, "This is your junior uncle, named Sin." "Junior uncle?" Jiang Lan was taken aback, feeling a wave of surprise. Did Ancestor just personally take on a disciple? Guin continued on his way as Jiang Lan, coming back to his senses, quickly bowed deeply towards Sin and addressed him as junior uncle. Sin, full of curiosity, moved in front of Jiang Lan, poking his arm and then his cheek, making Jiang Lan quite uneasy. "Sin, hurry and follow," Guin's voice drifted in. Sin quickly caught up. Jiang Lan turned and watched as Sin, glancing back, made a playful face at him. For some reason, Jiang Lan found this amusing and felt the distance between them shrink. It even made him look forward to the days ahead. With a new junior uncle, the future days within the beginningless seemed sure to be lively. Jiang Lan sheathed his sword and quietly followed them. S.E.A. the Novfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As night fell, all the beginningless disciples gathered in Guin's courtyard, making the place feel a bit crowded. Everyone curiously examined Sin, even an Xian and Xinjin were surprised. They never expected Guin to take on a disciple. Sin, not yet understanding what it meant to be nervous or uneasy, curiously scanned the crowd despite their stares. "His name is Sin, and I have personally taken him on as my disciple. His origins are unique, coming from beyond the 3,000 great worlds. Although he looks young, he is actually much older than anyone here. He was trapped for a long time, and I expect you all to guide him well," Guin introduced with a smile, causing everyone to be amazed. LV Xian was the first to ask, "Beyond the 3,000 great worlds? What kind of place is that?" The third-generation disciples were hearing for the first time about places beyond the 3,000 great worlds. They knew Ancestor was incredibly powerful, but the extent of his abilities was unclear. Hearing this, They felt a sense of awe and admiration. Not to mention places beyond the 3,000 great worlds, they hadn't even explored this great world entirely. It is a place unimaginably distant. Even if you surpass a free immortal, you won't be able to reach it, but as long as you cultivate diligently, one day you might arrive there yourself, Guin answered simply, not revealing the existence of the desperate celestial tomb. That place held the bones of a Xian-Qi primordial immortal and involved complicated cause and effect. The disciples began to discuss animatedly. An Exen softly said to Guin, "Master, don't worry, I will personally teach him." She knew Guin was busy and couldn't keep an eye on every disciple all the time. Of course, she also knew what Guin was preoccupied with, but she believed that after achieving such strength, he deserved to enjoy himself, given the hardships he had faced. "No worries, you focus on your cultivation. I will teach him personally, or let Ghost Mother guide him." Guin smiled and said. Sin had been trapped in the desperate celestial tomb for so many years, and Guin intended to make up for that by guiding him personally and broadening his horizons. Additionally, Guin had his own reasons for involving the Ghost Mother of Ephemera, wishing for her to integrate better into the beginningless. After hearing this, an Exine couldn't help but wonder internally. Could Sin be Master's son? She turned to look at Sin but couldn't see any resemblance to Guin. Everyone could sense Guin's regard for Sin, and together with Sin's mysterious origin, all were filled with curiosity about him. Sin's curiosity about everything made the following days within the beginningless very lively. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. The Qingquan sect plunged into internal strife. After Yi Qingshan abdicated the sect hierarch position to Yuan Luo, conflicts between various factions became incessant, with hidden dangers lurking everywhere. At the onset of spring that year, Guin took Sin to visit Jiang Qiong at the Gathering Flower sect. The Gathering Flower sect seized an opportunity to rapidly expand, and with Guin's help, Jiang Qiong achieved the status of free immortal, an entity with considerable influence even in the current era. Watching Sin darting around outside the pavilion, Jiang Qiong was filled with curiosity. Although Sin still looked like a youth, dressed in white with a red sash around his waist, his black hair tied up high behind his head, he carried an air of vigor and spirit. "Is he really your disciple?" "He feels more like your son," Jiang Qiong remarked, turning to Guin with a puzzled expression. Looking at Sin, she couldn't help but recall her first meeting with Guin. Though he was already grown then, he seemed much more immature compared to now. Guin laughed. "What's the difference between disciple and son? Once a teacher, forever a father." Jiang Qiong, propping her chin with her hand, looked at Guin with a playful smile. "Do you want a biological son? I could give you one." Guin shook his head with a wry smile. "You and I are cultivators, what need do we have for children?" He truly believed this. He didn't want to complicate things with cause and effect any further. Unlike disciples, one can't sever ties with one's children so easily. Given his current abilities and the resources of the beginningless Dao court, having children might result in raising little tyrants. Most importantly, Guin really didn't have expectations towards having children. "Master, can I go out and play?" Sin stood on the courtyard wall and called out. Guin replied, "Go ahead, but don't wander too far." Just as Jiang Qiong was about to speak, Sin vanished from the courtyard wall. This movement technique surprised Jiang Qiong. His speed far surpassed that of his realm. This kid's talent and comprehension seemed extraordinary. Jiang Qiong said, "I wanted to ask someone to accompany him, but he's in such a rush." Guin laughed. "Don't worry, this kid won't get into trouble. It's good he's out, it gives me the chance to instruct you personally." Jiang Qiong's face lit up with a smile, her eyes narrowing to crescent moons. "Actually, I do have some confusions that need your guidance." As she spoke, her hand gently rested on Guin's leg. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 719. The Anxious Blood Prison Great Saint. After staying at the Gathering Flower sect for 2 days, Guan finally returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless with Zue, walking in the woods at the edge of the dojo. Zue hopped and skipped beside Guan. "Master, when are we going back to the Gathering Flower sect?" Zue asked cheerfully. Compared to a century ago, Zue had become more lively. He was already at the Nirvana realm in cultivation and had officially embarked on the path of immortal cultivation. Fairy Yaoxian had left him some power, which Guan had sealed to prevent karma retribution from the great Tao. "But, have you found a girl you like?" Guan asked with a smile. Even without Jiang Qiong's arrangements, Zue had quickly made friends with several female disciples of the Gathering Flower sect in just 2 days. Mainly because he was handsome and young, he attracted the attention of female cultivators wherever he went. He wasn't shy and could chat with anyone. Zue tilted his head and replied, "Those little sisters are indeed very cute, and I enjoy interacting with them. But compared to them, I think there are many places and people in the Gathering Flower sect worth exploring." He wasn't immature, he was just accustomed to his physical form, so he maintained this appearance. His mind was constantly growing, and he understood the feelings between men and women, but he had no interest in such relationships. Guan could hear his thoughts. This kid just wanted to have fun. "Then you need to cultivate diligently. If you perform well, it'll take you there again in the future." Guan replied with a smile. "Master, you're the best." Zue immediately became happy and hugged Guan's arm, excitedly talking about what he had seen and heard in the past 2 days. After walking for a while, Zue suddenly noticed someone. It was a young woman who was injured and leaning against a large tree, cultivating energy to heal herself. Hearing the conversation and laughter between Guan and Zue, she opened her eyes and looked wary. Guan pretended not to see her and continued forward. As they got closer, the young woman grew increasingly nervous. Zue also stopped talking and curiously looked at the young woman. It was only when Guan passed by her that she secretly relaxed. Seeing that Guan didn't say anything, Zue didn't ask further questions. After the two of them disappeared at the end of the woods, the young woman finally completely let go of her stress. "Wait, this is a forbidden area. Are they people from the beginningless?" The young woman thought to herself. A sudden impulse to chase after them arose. She was being pursued and had fled here. If she could get help from the beginningless, she might escape from this ordeal. As soon as this thought was born, a surge of unexplained fear rose in her heart, making her quickly give up the idea. On the other side, Guan and Zue stepped into the dojo's range. Although Zue's cultivation level wasn't high, he could feel the sudden surge of spiritual energy, and he knew he was home. "Master, that person just now seemed injured. Is there a problem with the Qiankuan sect?" Zue couldn't help but ask. He had been to the Qiankuan sect before but hadn't sensed the internal conflicts of the sect. Guan looked ahead with a long gaze and said slowly, "The Qiankuan sect is going to disband. Our dojo will become larger in the future. Are you happy?" "What's there to be happy about with it becoming larger? Master, there are so many people on this continent. Are you going to drive them away?" Zue pursued. "What do you hope I should do?" "I hope you will let them stay. This way, the beginningless will become more lively. Of course, this is just my idea. If you fear disturbance in cultivation, then drive them away." Zue replied. In his heart, his master was already the most important person. He listened to his master's words and would never forget the long, tedious years in the desperate celestial tomb. "Since that's the case, let's do as you wish and let them stay on the continent." Guan patted Zue's head and smiled with satisfaction. He cared more about Zue's character than his cultivation level. Without a heart of compassion, one would eventually walk down an extreme path. Hearing this, Zue became even happier, but Guan continued, "Letting them stay is fine, but you must not bully them in the future. Regardless of their cultivation level, you must always respect others. Understand?" "Don't worry, Master, I will remember it." Zue said. The two of them chatted as they walked toward the forest ahead. The mountain forest of the Taoist field of the beginningless seemed vast and boundless, but in the nine-spirit continent, it was just a small piece. The affairs of the world are much the same. The The Qingkuan sect is experiencing a great calamity. Many people feel that the sky has fallen, but their sky seems insignificant in the grand scheme of the world. On a meteor along the path of the Great Tao, the blood prison Great Saint, Fang Xian, and 5 other cultivators sat together, the atmosphere heavy. A male cultivator looked at the blood prison Great Saint and couldn't help but ask, "Second brother, do you have to go back? Haven't our 7 brothers lived a joyful and carefree life?" The others followed in urging him. The reason was that the blood prison Great Saint was preparing to leave the path of the Great Tao and return to his sect, which they couldn't understand. Is being someone's steed really that good? Now, the 7 of them roamed the path of the Great Tao. Even if they encountered a Taoist emperor, the 7 of them together had the power to escape. They had already made a name for themselves, and their future was bright. Fang Xian understood Gu An's strength. He knew that the blood prison Great Saint's choice was correct, though he was still reluctant. He could only refrain from persuading or agreeing. The blood prison Great Saint glared and said, "Shut up. My master is the most powerful existence. You cannot offend him. Moreover, my return is the best choice and leaves you a lifeline." "A lifeline?" another cultivator asked. The blood prison Great Saint snorted, "The Great Tao is boundless. You will eventually encounter enormous trouble. When that time comes, ask me and I can ask my master to help." These words left everyone exchanging glances, unsure of how to respond. "Actually, you can stay." A voice suddenly sounded. The blood prison Great Saint was about to retort when he widened his eyes and stood up abruptly, turning around to see Guan and Azue approaching them. "Master!" The blood prison Great Saint was immediately thrilled and knelt to the ground. The others stood up, curiously and nervously studying Guan and Azue. Fang Xian's forehead broke out in cold sweat, his entire body stiffening as he recalled the nightmare of following the battle court to attack the celestial spirit Great World. Zue followed behind Guan, curiously looking at the 7 of them. Guan walked straight up to the blood prison Great Saint, looked down at him, and said with a smile, "You can think it over carefully. If you want to stay outside, I won't force you to come back. Our bond remains." Although the blood prison Great Saint was said to be his steed, he was actually no different from a disciple, as Guan didn't need a steed in his daily life. Having spent so much time together, Guan had grown very fond of the blood prison Great Saint and saw him as one of his own. "Impossible. I said I would be your steed for life. Unless you chase me away, I cannot leave you," the blood prison Great Saint said anxiously, his heart in chaos. "Has my master found a new steed during my absence? Is it Celestial Cyan Tianbai or another demoness? Damn it." Guan heard his thoughts and felt helpless. Why are they always demonesses? Curse him for thinking such things. Guan said exasperatedly, "All right, then stand up. You can come back with me later." The blood prison Great Saint beamed with joy and stood up immediately. Seeing him grinning foolishly in front of Guan, Fang Xian and the other 5 found it absurd. They had never seen the blood prison Great Saint so obsequious. Fang Xian was somewhat prepared, knowing Gu An's identity, but the other 5 were filled with curiosity, wanting to know about Gu An's origins. "Master, why are you here? Did you specifically come to pick me up? With your divine skills, a wave of your hand could transport me back," the blood prison Great Saint asked curiously. His words made his 5 sworn brothers secretly alarmed. Guan replied, "Indeed, I came to pick you up and to help you all with a problem." "A problem?" Chapter 720, Yellow Heaven Golden Rain Ascending to Yellow Heaven. Hearing this name, the blood prison Great Saint, Fang Xian, and the others' faces changed drastically. Having roamed the path of the Great Tao for so many years, they naturally knew the fame of ascending to Yellow Heaven. It was an extremely ancient cosmic plane, mysterious and powerful. The blood prison Great Saint turned his head to look at the others, frowning and asking, "Who has a vendetta with ascending to Yellow Heaven?" Everyone looked at each other, and one yellow-robed Taoist carefully said, "I haven't offended ascending to Yellow Heaven, but I encountered a cultivator from ascending to yellow heaven before. He was very interested in the primordial Tao Emperor, so we had a conversation. The blood prison great saint widened his eyes and said angrily, "So you revealed us to him as well?" The yellow-robed Taoist responded aggrievedly, "Second brother, didn't you and eldest brother say that we should promote the primordial Tao Emperor more? The stronger the overall destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor, the more benefit we receive." The blood prison great saint was stuck, only looking at him angrily. Feng Xian was not nervous because Guan had come personally. Though ascending to yellow heaven was renowned, he could never forget the scene of Guan single-handedly suppressing the battle court, a memory that haunted him forever. "Master, will you help us teach ascending to yellow heaven a lesson?" The blood prison great saint turned to Guan, asking expectantly. If Guan could take action, it would greatly boost his reputation. He often boasted to his brothers about his master's strength, but seeing is believing, and he wanted to show his brothers their master's power. Most importantly, the master was taking action for him, proving that he had chosen the right person to follow. The others also looked at Guan, even though they didn't know how strong he was. However, over the long years, they often heard the blood prison great saint boast about the strength of the Lord of Wuxia, which piqued their curiosity. Moreover, Guan said that ascending to yellow heaven had already surrounded this void, yet he could sneak in unnoticed, which indicated his confidence in confronting ascending to yellow heaven. Guan did not answer the blood prison great saint but instead introduced Zue to him. "Blood prison great saint, I've often heard my mentors mention you." Zue said obediently, which made the blood prison great saint warm to him immediately, responding with a hearty laugh. The blood prison great saint appeared casual, but his mind was filled with curiosity. Where did this boy come from? He must have an extraordinary background to be brought here by the master for exposure. Feng Xian said, his tone heavy, eyes filled with tension. Even though he had full confidence in Guan, seeing the legendary yellow heaven golden rain still made him feel uneasy, a primal response to the terrifying power. As the golden mist spread, the cosmos brightened, but the area around the meteor became hazy and eerie. Looking around, they could see no exit. The speed at which the yellow heaven golden rain descended was incredibly fast. They felt the weight pressing on their flesh and souls, as if an invisible giant mountain was crushing them, making it hard to breathe. Zue, however, was not nervous, only curiously observing his surroundings. After leaving the desperate celestial tomb for so many years, he had seen battles and slaughter, but he had never seen his master fight. This filled him with anticipation. "Two primordial Tao emperors, I come today, hoping not to disturb you?" A vast and commanding voice echoed through the cosmos. As the words fell, terrifying figures appeared in the golden mist surrounding the meteor. Dragon and phoenix shadows, and other figures resembling Chilins and Suanis flew by. A majestic figure appeared before them, like a creator god overseeing all beings from outer heaven, exuding an overwhelming sense of pressure, making people instinctively want to kneel. The blood prison great saint was secretly shocked. Having achieved the realm of a primordial Tao emperor, he had even fought against the heaven-encompassing free immortal. Though he wasn't a match, he had never felt despair. This mysterious and majestic figure gave him an unbeatable feeling. This aura was stronger than when he faced Guan in the battle court. Feng Xian also compared the aura with Gu An's previous display, feeling a bead of sweat for Guan. The one coming was immensely strong. Countless terrifying figures flew within the golden mist, like pets raised by the majestic figure, countless in number, surrounding the meteor where Guan and the others were, blocking all directions. The blood prison great saint, seeing Guan remain silent, shouted loudly, "Seniors of ascending to yellow heaven, we have not offended you." He used the respectful form, showing his inner tension. He feared neither heaven nor earth, but that depended on the situation and opponent. The mysterious figure before him had the most terrifying aura he had encountered in all his years. Even as a primordial Tao emperor, he had no will to fight. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Being enemies, Guan certainly wouldn't be merciful. The yellow heaven golden rain quickly dissipated, and the trembling meteor began to regain peace. All fell silent. Blood Prison Great Saint, Fang Xian, and the others were left dumbstruck. Even having witnessed Gu Ennis battles before, they were deeply shaken. Sinner's expression wasn't as exaggerated, but his eyes shone brightly, fists clenched, body trembling with excitement. Guan turned, looking at Blood Prison Great Saint, smiled. The trouble is resolved. Let's go. Sinner instantly flashed to his side. Blood Prison Great Saint snapped out of it, running over, carefully asking, Master, didn't you mention this universe being surrounded by ascending to yellow heaven? What about the enemies beyond the universe? The others snapped out of it too, nervously looking at Guan. Guan waved his sleeve, taking Blood Prison Great Saint and Sinner away, but his voice still lingered, reaching Fang Xian and the 6 others. No need to worry, they are all dead. Hearing this, Fang Xian and the 6 felt incredulous once more. A cultivator raised his hand instinctively, mimicking Guan's stroke, feeling as if in a dream. S.E.A. The Novel Fire. N.E*T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Just one stroke. How high is Second Brother's master's cultivation? The yellow-robed Taoist couldn't help exclaiming. The others began to open up, expressing their excitement. Fang Xian recalled those nightmare-like experiences, his heart now filled with curiosity. What kind of existence is the supporting Dao sword venerable? Could he be an immortal god descending to the human world for leisure? Ascending to yellow heaven, colossal to the 3,000 great worlds, seemed insignificant before the legendary celestial court. Fang Xian took a deep breath, not joining the discussion with his brothers. He gazed into the distance, the 2 golden streams still lingering in the void, evidence of the previous events. He suddenly had a thought. Perhaps the Blood Prison Great Saint's choice was right. If they meet again, Blood Prison Great Saint's cultivation might very well surpass his. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. They mentioned many names, all of whom were pursuing the primordial Dao Emperor, with the most notable being the Xuanji Emperor. The reputation of the Xuanji Emperor's prodigy was renowned on the path of the great Dao. He switched allegiance from the Taoist Emperor to the primordial Dao Emperor, causing a significant impact. After a while, when the hall quieted down, the Yellow Heaven Emperor ancestor slowly said, Select 10,000 disciples to enter the path of the great Dao and pursue the path of the primordial Dao Emperor. Remember, it is to pursue no other tricks. As for the matter of immortal Emperor Bu Yuan, set it aside for now. Yes, ancestor. Everyone in the hall responded in unison. They did not feel wronged as Yellow Heaven had stood tall this long not by seeking revenge for every grudge. To be able to use cause and effect on the path of the great Dao to penetrate Yellow Heaven's destiny and slay immortal Emperor Bu Yuan, no one wanted to oppose such an existence, not even immortal Emperor Bu Yuan's master. The great Dao is long and filled with obstacles. Dying on the path is too normal, the living are what matter most. In the autumn season, Guan was watering flowers in the Taoist field of the beginningless. Besides picking medicinal herbs, he occasionally did other chores. No one expected him to pick medicinal herbs, at least all the disciples believed he simply liked rural life, possibly related to his experience before immortal cultivation. An Exine suddenly appeared beside Guan, her expression complex. She asked, Master, is the primordial Dao Emperor really that powerful? Yesterday, she had sparred with the Blood Prison Great Saint, and the two had fought to a draw. This left her deeply shaken, as she previously believed her immortal emperor's eye was invincible, the most powerful divine skill of her master. Although she aimed to become a primordial Tao emperor, in her heart he was merely icing on the cake, not comparable to the power of the immortal emperor's eye. She pondered all night but couldn't figure it out. Little did she know, the blood prison great saint had locked himself away, also spending all night unable to understand why he couldn't defeat an Exin. The blood prison great saint decided never to venture out again, thinking that cultivating with his master was more promising. The primordial Tao emperor is just a type of destiny power, varying from person to person. You don't need to antagonize it, it can make your immortal emperor's eye stronger. You can become the primordial Tao emperor, but the blood prison great saint cannot cultivate the immortal emperor's eye. Guan casually replied. The immortal emperor's eye was a secret inheritance. In the entire Taoist field of the beginningless, only an Exan inherited it. Others were not even aware of the term immortal emperor's eye. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 723, The Fall of the Immortal Gods. After hearing her master's words, an Exin felt justified and immediately relaxed. Indeed, why should she fear the power of the primordial Tao emperor? Why doubt the immortal emperor's eye? As long as she becomes the primordial Tao emperor, the blood prison great saint could never be her match. Master, aren't you teaching the other disciples to cultivate the immortal emperor's eye? An Exin asked curiously. She wasn't afraid of other disciples knowing it, but she felt that if all Wuxia disciples could master such power, the future of Wuxia would be limitless. Guan replied, the immortal emperor's eye brings immense trouble and is not suitable for everyone to cultivate. He has many divine skills, there's no need for every disciple to master all his Taoist techniques. Moreover, the immortal emperor's eye isn't something that can be easily cultivated. Back then, he passed it on to an Exin just to try it out. Unexpectedly, an Exin showed great comprehension in the immortal emperor's eye. Seeing Guan had made up his mind, an Exin stopped dwelling on the issue. She asked several questions about the primordial Tao emperor and left satisfied after getting the answers. Guan continued to stroll in the medicine garden. Even if no one was watching him, he needed to maintain such habits. Since Wuxia Dojo became lively after Sin, and now with the return of the blood prison great saint, life could be described as chaotic. The third-generation disciples were all curious about the experiences of the blood prison great saint, and the blood prison great saint also wanted to share, eventually forming a bond with the third-generation disciples. Spring passed and autumn came. 500 years flew by quickly. On this day, in a Qiankuan sect tavern, Guan and the unbeaten emperor ancestor were drinking together. He planned to let the unbeaten emperor ancestor take back the 20 unbeaten emperor clan prodigies. He had called them earlier to help Qiankuan sect establish its foothold. Now Qiankuan sect was nearing its end and no longer needed them. The unbeaten emperor ancestor asked, Master, why not let them stay and establish a sect? If you need them in the future, you can command them anytime. Guan laughed and asked, haven't your unbeaten emperor clan been facing troubles recently? Don't you need their power? The unbeaten emperor ancestor was secretly alarmed. Guan could see the situation in the primordial emperor domain even though he stayed in the celestial spirit great world. Master, you jest. If the unbeaten emperor clan needs these juniors' power to overcome difficulties, we wouldn't be worthy of the emperor clan title. The unbeaten emperor ancestor shook his head and laughed. Guan understood the unbeaten emperor ancestor's thoughts. This arrangement was to strengthen their relationship and to leave seeds behind. The unbeaten emperor clan had left their bloodlines in all 3,000 great worlds as a precaution. Guan thought for a while and said, fine, let them stay in the celestial spirit great world. They can develop their own sect, even compete for dominance, but if they commit evil and threaten the great world itself, I won't allow them to act recklessly. The unbeaten emperor ancestor was overjoyed upon hearing this and immediately raised his cup to thank Guan. Guan turned his head to look at the street outside. The bustling Qiankuan sect disciples walked hurriedly, keeping their distance from each other. The whole street lost its usual liveliness, filled with a tense atmosphere. The unbeaten emperor ancestor also turned his head to look, sighing. Prosperity and decline are also part of reincarnation. Our emperor clan has experienced it too, even faced near extinction several times. Guan chuckled softly. Indeed, it's all reincarnation. When you come next time, you won't see the current scenery. The unbeaten emperor ancestor thought deeply about Guan's words, feeling there was more to it. Then, Guan continued drinking with him, exchanging 3,000 great worlds' intelligence. About the competition for the Son of Heaven, Guan had already informed the unbeaten emperor ancestor. The unbeaten emperor ancestor had been paying attention over the years. The primordial emperor domain does not belong to the 3,000 great worlds. Often immortal gods descend into the domain, and the unbeaten emperor ancestor learned through his connections that there was indeed a competition for the Son of Heaven. Who these two sons of heaven were could not be determined for now, but the unbeaten emperor clan knew which planes and sects were involved. Even if it was an intricate conspiracy, destined to be wiped out by Tsungtin, some still chose to enter the fray. Guan patiently listened, driven mainly by curiosity. When it involved the celestial court, he couldn't completely foresee the fate, but he could already see the chaos of the 3,000 great worlds in the future. That calamity would expose many hidden great powers, even causing the fall of immortal gods. When he saw the scene of immortal gods falling, it meant he had the qualification to observe the cause and effect of the celestial court. As his cultivation level grew stronger, the mysterious veil of the celestial court would gradually be lifted in his eyes. The two talked for a long time, until dusk. Then the unbeaten emperor ancestor bid farewell. He had to instruct those 20 juniors first. Guan leisurely walked towards the street. Walking along, he encountered someone, none other than Li Ya's sister Li Xuanyu. Since discovering Guan near Qiankuan sect, Li Xuanyu had stayed in the Qiankuan sect and was now considered part of its high echelon. Their meeting on the street was no coincidence. Guan had calculated she would walk this street. Li Xuanyu saw him without surprise. Their frequent encounters over the long years made her accustomed. Each time they met, Guan would provide her with some opportunities or guidance. After numerous encounters, she realized these coincidences were Guan's deliberate intentions. Are you about to reveal Qiankuan sect's future to me? Li Xuanyu asked curiously as she approached Guan. In recent centuries, the internal strife of Qiankuan sect escalated. Yuan Luo acted domineeringly, offending many people. Some rose while others fell. Upon confirming Yuan Luo's absence of connection to Wuxia, opponents began to unite. Li Xuanyu had already seen signs of internal turmoil, but with Wuxia nearby, she remained unafraid. Like the old days in the supreme sect, regardless of the storm, the supporting Dao sword venerable always emerged to fortify and settle the turmoil. Qiankuan sect is about to disperse. Are you planning to return to the Tai Tsong dynasty or join the Wuxia sect? Of course, you can have other choices and prepare in advance. Guan spoke. He and Li Xuanyu had congenial conversations. Back then, when he wasn't strong enough, Li Xuanyu introduced him to managing cave mansions, providing him more lifespan channels. Perhaps these events had faded from Li Xuanyu's memory, but he remembered them. Throughout his journey, though lacking many enemies, few people actively helped him before he demonstrated his strength. Guan could see through the essence of the red dust, valuing those acts of kindness. Li Xuanyu asked, "Can I really join Wuxia?" She hesitated, feeling undeserving as she believed she couldn't help Guan much. Seeing her expression, Guan suddenly had an idea. What if he cultivated Li Xuanyu to be stronger than Li Ya? What would Li Ya's reaction be if he got defeated by his sister in combat? Sir the Nefire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan found it interesting. Li Ya and Li Xuanyu were siblings. Their sparring would not harm their relationship. Guan wanted to see Li Ya's frustrated and surprised expression. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 724. Surpassing the Celestial God. Of course you can. You don't need to overthink it, but there's one thing you must understand. Once you join Wuxia, it's not easy to leave. To attain the Tao, you must endure long, monotonous years. Guan smiled at Li Xuanyu. If Li Xuanyu didn't want to join Wuxia, he wouldn't force her. Li Xuanyu nodded and said, I understand. Following you will undoubtedly grant me power beyond all beings. If left unchecked, it could become a catastrophe for the human world. Freedom and power, one must choose between the two. Is that how you understand it? That's not entirely wrong. In truth, the reason Guan constrained his disciples was simply because they were too weak. Going out too early would likely bring troubles beyond their ability to resolve. He didn't want to always be the one cleaning up after them. You came to invite me personally, how could I refuse? Could you give me some time to handle matters within my sect? Li Xuanyu looked at Guan and spoke softly. People around them couldn't hear their conversation, nor did anyone look their way. This wasn't the first time Li Xuanyu noticed this. Each time it happened, she felt a sense of shock and incredulity. Guan had no objections. They exchanged a few more words before passing by each other. At the same time, on the other side of the human world, in a mountain forest, there was a wooden house where Li Xianyu, who had grown up, was carving a wooden sword with a small knife. He wore white clothes, a black shoulder sleeve draped over his right shoulder, and his hair was tied behind his head with a grass rope. His defined features were filled with spirit. Clang. The door of the wooden house was pushed open. An elder in a green robe walked out, his face looking rather displeased. He didn't glance at Li Xianyu as he passed by, transforming into a white light that disappeared at the edge of the celestial vault. Li Xianyu didn't mind and continued carving the wooden sword in his hand. Liu, dressed in black, walked out from the house, stretching lazily in the sunlight. He sighed and said, Disciple, why are there so many ambitious people in this world? The Tao court is a lesson from the past. Trying to unify the world is incredibly difficult. Li Xianyu, with his back to Liya, responded, Tao court didn't fail. They dominated for many years. It was they who chose to dissolve. The major sects in the world might just be renamed Tao court cultivators. Even with the fall of Tao court, there are still Xianting and the immortal court. They continue to enjoy the world's resources. Liya glared at Li Xianyu and grumbled, Brat, do you expect me to lower myself to those sects and become their lackey? Of course not. If you must join an immortal cultivation sect, it should be Wuxia. You should follow Master Gu, Li Xianyu replied without turning his head. Ever since he witnessed Master Gu's prowess, he always wanted to join Wuxia. Unfortunately, Liya would not go. He understood his master's pride. Men, after all, tend to be proud. If Master Gu were a generation above him, it wouldn't be such a problem, but they were peers. Liya snorted, Wuxia is undoubtedly an excellent place. Do you think I don't know that? You have no idea what's on your master's mind. Indeed, I don't. I only know that without me accompanying you, who knows when you might get seriously injured again. Nonsense, last time was an accident. Hee, let's say it was an accident. Without me carrying you, you would have already been reincarnated. Li Xianyu's words nearly drove Liya mad. This kid was becoming more and more disrespectful. Liya regretted acting impulsively back then. He hadn't figured out his opponent's background before making a move. He wasn't afraid, just that head-lost face in front of his disciple, making him uncomfortable. Stop carving that wooden sword. Come, I'll take you to the sword sect for a visit. Don't you want a divine sword? I'll fulfill your wish. Liya stood with his hands on his hips, looking quite pleased with himself. Upon hearing this, Li Xianyu immediately stood up, looking at Liya with joy. Liya enjoyed this look. This was the attitude a disciple should have. The sword sect's reputation now shakes the heavens. Chen Chuan of the sword sect is the #1 sword cultivator in the world. According to you, he counts as my senior brother. Can I ask him for some guidance? Li Xianyu flashed to Li Ya's front and asked expectantly. Li Ya's eyes widened in anger. Is his sword Dao better than mine? You brat, are you trying to betray me? Of course not. I just want to gather the strengths of all sects to create my own sword Dao, Li Xianyu said earnestly. In truth, he believed that Li Ye wasn't a match for Qin Chuan. Since Qin Chuan had stepped into the free immortal realm, he had never been defeated. In fact, since his rise to fame, he had never lost a battle, unlike his master, whom he had seen lose with his own eyes. Every time he thought of his master, bloodied and on the brink of death, he felt a heartache. Once, Li Ye was an invincible existence in his mind. Even Master Gu was not considered a match for him. His master's defeat shattered a belief in him. Of course, he wouldn't reveal these thoughts, afraid of hurting Li Ya's feelings. He still respected Li Ye, for Li Ye was the most chivalrous person he had ever seen. Li Ye had saved many suffering people like him, never seeking anything in return. Li Ya's last injury was also because he couldn't stand seeing the strong oppress the weak. Just as well, the sword sect is holding the world's #1 sword assembly. I'll challenge him, so you can see who's stronger, Li Ye snorted, his eyes brimming with fighting spirit. Qin Chuan's fame was immense. Standing on the colorful clouds, the celestial calming god gave Su Yu a deep look, then scanned the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and said, "The 3,000 great worlds will be divided into two, led by celestial gods. Before the grand contest begins, the strength of both camps will be equal, overseen by high-ranking immortal gods. This is a rare fairness. You all have a 50% chance of winning, the rest depends on your efforts." His voice was like heavenly thunder, deafening. A heavenly soldier couldn't help but ask, "If we lose, what will happen to us?" Sar the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With this question, many heavenly soldiers immediately echoed, questioning the celestial calming god. Having finally become heavenly soldiers, they had to face another trial. Who could bear it? "If we lose, I will be punished along with you. Don't worry, your celestial court destiny won't dissipate. You just need to make amends. With the destiny of the celestial court, you all are immortal and indestructible beings." The celestial calming god's answer calmed the heavenly soldiers' unease. Zhang Buku noticed that Su Yu seemed to be mocking the celestial calming god. Could heavenly soldiers die too? Zhang Buku was deeply worried. He wasn't afraid for his own safety but was concerned about the calamity that could cause even heavenly soldiers to fall. How terrifying would that be for all living beings in the Great Thousand Worlds? He was still concerned about the celestial spirit Great World and those old acquaintances. "Before this grand contest begins, I will personally preach to you, so you can quickly improve your cultivation level. Strive to reach the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm before the grand contest." The celestial calming god's voice echoed again, and this statement excited the heavenly soldiers. In any case, being able to quickly improve their cultivation level was an immediate benefit. Time flew like an arrow. 300 years passed swiftly, and the Qiankuan sect eventually erupted into internal strife, causing the 9 spirit continents people to suffer. Guan dispatched an Xian to expel all cultivators of the Qiankuan sect. In the courtyard, Guan was planting medicinal herbs. Li Xuanyu followed behind him, curiously asking, "Can an Xian alone drive out the Qiankuan sect?" The current Qiankuan sect is not simple. Not only Li Xuanyu, but Yi Qingshan and 4 others had also moved into the Taoist field of the beginningless, each establishing their cave mansions. Once they arrived at the Taoist field of the beginningless, Li Xuanyu and Yi Qingshan were all surprised. They didn't expect that the Taoist field of the beginningless harbored so many powerful figures and talents. Not to mention the strength of Blood Prison Great Saint Lv Xian, the Celestial Demon Child, and others. The talent of the 3rd-generation disciples was visible to the naked eye. Even in the Qiankuan sect, they would stand out. Before Guan could answer, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared on the horizon, like a celestial curtain, attracting Li Zuanya's attention. Her expression changed slightly. She sensed Nzin's presence and an extremely domineering power. Her abilities are indeed not enough, but she has a Tao treasure refined by me. Guan casually replied, tomorrow he could expand the Taoist field, extending its range to cover the entire Nine-Spirit continent. In the future, the people of the Nine-Spirit continent would also benefit. With the rich spiritual energy and Tao intent within the Taoist field, even those who don't cultivate would become stronger over time. Tao treasure. Li Zuanya's heart was filled with curiosity. She had heard of Tao treasures. Many years ago, the disciples of Wusher had emerged and saved all living beings. The power of the Tao treasures became renowned throughout the world. But could an Xen alone expel the entire Qiankuan sect with just one Tao treasure? Suddenly, she felt an extremely terrifying and chilling aura, as if it would pierce through the celestial vault. She recalled Yuan Luo's face in her mind. She could confirm that this powerful aura came from Yuan Luo, though she didn't expect Yuan Luo to be this powerful. Ancestor. A female voice came, and Shangguan Xiener quickly ran over. Guan immediately said to Li Xuanyu, Senior Sister Li, you don't need to worry. Go back and cultivate. Li Xuanyu didn't think much, bowed, and left immediately. Shangguan Xiener came before Guan, mysteriously pulling out a book and said, Ancestor, this is my painstaking work. It will definitely surprise you. Guan glared at her, took the book from her hand, and sternly said, Can't you focus on your cultivation? Shangguan Xiener giggled. I am cultivating diligently. Just take a look first. You'll look at it later. Guan stuffed the book into his robe and continued planting. Shangguan Xiener's eyes rolled, and she sidled up to Guan, saying, Ancestor, if you are satisfied with it, could you teach me a divine skill? I also want to compete for the rankings of the third-generation disciples. Within Wusher, there was always competition, from the second-generation disciples to the third. Every 1,000 years, a comparison was made, and currently, Nzizai was still the strongest among the third-generation disciples, while Shangguan Xiener was ranked among the last 3. Why the sudden desire to cultivate divine skills? Guan didn't immediately agree but asked instead. Shangguan Xiener pouted, Aren't I listening to your advice to cultivate diligently? Guan smiled and said, You want to go out and establish a sect? Shangguan Xiener hurriedly explained, Ancestor, I'm not going out immediately, but in the future. I still want to serve you for thousands of years. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.